Fellow Amazonians, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this very important broadcast exclusive discussion with Paddy King. Tonight, as you've seen from the caption, we notified you late, but I'm sure those who followed up during the town hall, you are aware that today we are supposed to have this discussion. The relevance of it is that we have our public informed, educated, some re-educated, and we will also be debunking certain behaviors. I woke up this morning to a video shared with me, a certain individual who once called himself an activist, but now is obviously, he is an enabler and a black flag, trying to mobilize a public to assault, abuse, and harass the president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia. I would have responded proactively and immediately, but I thought this is not one of those things that we need to do a social media ping pong. We've got to take it seriously, and I thought it was important to consult legal minds. This is a legal issue, and I think as we're building a country of law, building pilot structures, certain individuals with unscrupulous behaviors, with arrogance, has got to face discipline. Right now in the studio, I have Barrister Tim Bisea and I have Barrister Fru, but I'm asking you to stay on, and right after the break, I will ensure that Barrister Ghana is connected so that we can begin the discussion. Some of the aspects of what we'll be talking about tonight will be to process the statements of Christian Cardinal Tumi and other things surrounding the indictment, the media propaganda. What is there that our people have got to know? What are our chances as a people and as a nation to come out of this situation or quagmire victoriously? What is the game plan? What is Cameroon trying to do? These are all questions we'll be providing justice to them tonight. So stay tuned. I'm calling on those who are watching us on Facebook and on YouTube to share and to tell somebody that we're live. Stay tuned.
May we share the grace.
May the grace of our Lord be with you in all that you do.
Rocktown in the building.
Rocktown in the building. Rich boy on the beach. Ay, 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 ay. Thunder. Ha. Hey, booby. Woo. May the grace
of our Lord you in all that you do.
Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
With all that's fair,
na, 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 na.
Even will not be made.
His mighty hands is upon you, and there is nothing
that you cannot achieve.
Amen, amen, oh. Amen, oh. Amen, amen, oh. Amen, oh. Amen, amen. ya no better kete. Money kill a fe, me no go downgrade. Up, you dey go. Fly so high like an eagle. Jehovah controller. Amen. You will go so high and everything go to work for you. Amen. Oh yeah. You shall not die but live long life. I pray for you. Amen. Oh yeah. Then go to try, then go to fail. You go to go, you go to come. Now the grace of God they carry you go. Hey, the grace of be with you in all that you do. You are successful. Your labor will not be in vain. His mighty hand, and there is nothing
that you cannot achieve.
Amen. Kill a fe, me no go downgrade. Up, you dey go. Fly so high like an eagle. Jehovah controller. Amen.
Good evening, Barrister Fru, Barrister team. You're welcome. I think Barrister Ghana will be joining us in the next 5 minutes, but we've got to start considering the fact that Barrister Fru has just 90 minutes to be with us. It's an extensive discussion. We will start from somewhere. The unfortunate part of this whole thing right now is we are getting to a point where some individuals are taking advantage of perhaps the platform Ambazonians have given to them to fight against genuine Ambazonians. We have enablers taking advantage of the situation to manipulate and to create fear to our people. And in spite of the fact that the past week, you gentlemen have spent a lot of time to sensitize the public, to have discussion with the public, I believe the importance of education can never be overemphasized. Today, I would not like us to start just on the educative part. Let us talk on the technicalities and the chances of Ambazonia in this case. I hope if we would expose to the public what we know, it will help our people, it will help their faith, the faith that we need to continue prosecuting this war. Of course, Dr. Martin Mungwa said a few days ago that we are people of faith. And when I begin to ask the questions, how did we get here? How did it happen that the people who have been disarmed for 6 decades will go out with their bare hands with leaves, sticks, knives, and they are beating a well-trained army in a full-blown war? And the enemy will sought to use other methods that we know are criminal, mostly to divide and to conquer, to weaken our framework. Let us start with you, Barrister Fru Johnson. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Paddy. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us once more. We're
Barty
here.
team, good evening and welcome.
Yes, thanks very much for receiving us once more. We hope our discussion will enlighten those who are not properly enlightened and will encourage those who are being discouraged to stand their grounds. Thank you once more. We're ready for you.
Okay, Barrister Fu, let me take it with you. I think I'll give you, during these first few minutes, I'll give you more chance to speak since you're leaving us on the platform with Barrister Ghana and Barrister Team. You have gone through this report during the town hall. You had an opportunity to talk to Ambazonians. Now we're not just talking to Ambazonians at the home front and in the diaspora. We are also communicating our standpoint to the international community. Just talk to us. This whole indictment, what are the technicalities involved? What are our chances? Where are we going from here?
Yes, thank you, Paddy. I want to say that what I'm going to say would not, I will choose my words very carefully. It will not affect the matters that are before the courts. We respect the United States legal system. It is the common law system and very, very fair to everybody. And what I'm going to say now, I'm going to speak only to our lay people to understand what is going on. First of all, when I picked up the indictment and I read it first as prose and then read it as a trial lawyer. And like I said before, and I'm continue to say it, there are two major prongs to that indictment, or two major charges, which have been divided into 4 counts. And if you read the counts, and you read the penalties involved, this is a felony, Class C and Class D, up to Class E felonies, which do not carry much of heavy imprisonment maximum, or not more than 3 years of or service or whatever. But I want to say that first, we have a very good case, and there's no way in the world we're going to lose this case. I want to make that clear to Ambazonians that La Republique, if they have anything to do with this, they should know that their dancing is premature, because the lawyers that are going to handle this case in the American courts are very competent lawyers, and they will get to know exactly what is happening. We have been at war for 5 years now with La République du Cameroon. They declared war on us on the 30th of November 2017 by their president at the airport at Nsemelin, coming back from France Afrique, that was organized in Ivory Coast. And they removed that declaration from his pocket and read it, declaring war against the people of the southern Cameroons, Ambazonia. And nobody took it for a joke. And since then, he moved troops to Manfe, and of course, we know the rest. The war has been going on now for more than 5 years, and all of a sudden, we have this indictment indicting our officials of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, TS government. We're talking about the county chair of Ngokutundia, as he then was, Frank Cheney. We're talking about the spokesperson of that county, Mr. Langmi Nestor, as he then was. We're talking about Mr. Clark, who was the local government area chairperson of NDOP. And at that time, I think he was in the cabinet, in the local cabinet of the county in Gwakutunja. These people were serving the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, which their independence was declared on the 27th, on the 30th, on the 1st of October 2017 by the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, as he then was, Ayub Tabe. And this is a war that is being fought on the territory of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, by invaders, by La République du Cameroon, an occupying force. They declared war on us, and I don't see how we could have defended ourselves, knowing that they took us by surprise. We didn't have arms. We have not never had arms. And the war started. They slaughtered our people. The videos are there. Everything is there. They slaughtered our people. They burned down our villages. And our people were vulnerable. And we have a sizable number of our people living in the United States, working and living here and making some money. And we cannot fold our arms and watch our people, our own families slaughtered by an occupying force. And then we sit on 2022 and receive an indictment of financing what? Against a government. Which government are they talking about? That is where this case stands on the political aspects of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. It's actually a political trial. And in a political trial, of course, it's always tinted by a criminal trial. We will evacuate the criminal aspect of it and tie it up with the political aspect of it. And I just want to make it clear that the United States is divided into three distinct systems: the executive branch, the legislature, and the judiciary. I'm not sure the judiciary quite understands what is going on the ground, but that is to be proven.
Okay.
But we know that the executive branch and the legislature they know about this. The legislature has even issued what you will call resolutions calling on La République du Cameroon, that is the invading force, to negotiate this matter without precondition.
And the TPS was also good faith from the United States government towards our plan.
Yes, we know that we have been in contact with the State Department, that's the executive branch. So the executive branch and the legislature, they know exactly what is happening to us. But I'm not so sure whether the judiciary knows, but that is to be proven in the court of law as it is going to happen.
You see, well, one thing that inspires me in this whole litigation and proceedings is the leadership mentality or initiative of the government. You just mentioned Comrade Langme. We are aware of his stance, as his most recent stance against this government. But in spite of what some Ambazonians are concerned, the leader of this government, of the peoples of Ambazonia, the indigenous peoples of Ambazonia, prefers that taking leadership position, every Ambazonian that is involved, first of all, with the grounds that he had served this government and the people under this jurisdiction, the interim government should take leadership. Now, Barrister Tim, I'm coming to you. When you have the interim government or the president during the town hall starting by telling us we must win this case, What possibly could be the grounds of that audacity? Talk to us, please. In examination of the whole for the year.
Well, I
Let me
think
get closer and then sit Western Amazonian and see you as you
it
talk.
looks
Thank you.
interesting. It's fun. It's a, we must win. There's no doubt about that because it's not the case in the first place. It's a when you look at the whole indictment, a number of things are called the issue. What they call Ngokutunje County meeting. It's not a family house. It's not a house where you go and sit in physically and sit on the table and drink beer. It's a virtual space meeting where people in that virtual space called Ngokutunje County meeting can come in from anywhere. They are part of China, Japan, all over the world. They are assembled in that virtual space to discuss issues. That's the truth. But there is a place physically on the map of the world called Ngokutunje. Can take the map of the world, put it down, you find a spot called Ngokutunje. In that spot called Ngokutunje, you'll find it somewhere in a country called Cameroon. Let us forget about Ambazonia for now. We found somewhere with a geographical location called Cameroon. And so people are meeting in a virtual house to raise money, to discuss other things in the name of Ngokutunje, a physical spot in Cameroon. People are alleged to have done a number of things in a physical spot called Cameroon, in a place called Ngokutunje. You can go there, you can walk to that spot. You're not going to have the difficulty that you bring Lagny. He's a virtual house meeting here. He's living in New York. The other one lives in California. The other one lives everywhere in the world. But in Cameroon, there's a spot there. And then people are alleged to have committed crimes on that practical spot, that physical spot in the map of the world called Cameroon, called Ngokutunje. There's a government there. If those who acted on that physical spot called Cameroon committed a crime, they broke that state law, the law of Cameroon. It is therefore the responsibility of that country called Cameroon to prosecute those people who commit crimes in his own territory. The United States has no power to come to the United States and enforce Cameroon law. They can't do that. Cameroon cannot complain to America, well, somebody has come to my country and broken my law, prosecute him for me. It doesn't work that way. If they've broken the law and they have escaped, you try them first, issue an indictment against them, and then tell the people who are sheltering them, yeah, these are criminals by our own book. They have done this, they have done this. This is a charge against them. This is the judgment in absentia. So can you help us bring this? But this did not happen. It never happened. It's probably never going to happen. Why? Because nothing alleged in that indictment, in principle, again, in principle, is even against Cameroon law. There's nothing in principle against Cameroon law in that thing. They adopted somebody, they kidnapped somebody. These people who are alleged to have been adopted or kidnapped and extorted money from, they are named there. Cardinal Tumi, 1. Certain Binlo, 2. These are physical human beings. None of them is an American. None of them is an American. So how does America go to protect them? None of them, to the best of our knowledge, can even be a complainant in the United States legal system. So, I mean, it speaks nonsense to many of us. But why is it that these people cannot be prosecuted by the physical government in place? We are Ambazonia.
That's the question.
Cameroon still exercises that jurisdiction over that physical spot called Ngokutunje. Why are they not prosecuting these people? It is simple. They are not prosecuting because the people are not committing crimes. because some of the things which are being done by the government. That's the fact. Not if, that's a rare fact. For example, let me just give an illustration to show that they are not prosecuting because they don't want to prosecute. We heard about kidnapping, extortion, some of which is suspicion. A good number of it, some of them is a fact, proven. Take Madame Mundi, for example. Madame Mundi was adopted in plain daylight in the city. It was announced by the adoptees they were not hiding. They took her away. She was released officially by the government in high-profile way, flying them in a helicopter. And
the release was questionable.
And telling us that in the release they captured 5-6 pickup cars. Where are those cars? Why has government prosecuted these people who adopted Madame Mundi, a high government official? No. Why? Because it was either not an adoption or it was an adoption staged by the government. And so the United States justice system cannot go to a foreign country to enforce their own laws when the very country is unwilling to enforce the same laws. They are alleged to have raised funds on social media space. Is that illegal?
Yes.
No. Even in Cameroon law, it's not illegal. The government has called on people to raise funds to support the refugees, to support the victims of their own battle. They are doing it right now. They went around with plates begging money.
And in fact,
so what is wrong with that?
Barrister Bessel, as we speak, countless of our people, those who have been amputated, I just want to show videos. Sometimes we come on air with very heavy eyes. As I speak to you, countless of them in Bui. There's one of these guys, he's watching our program every day. He is a man with a family. His life has just, in fact, he has been decapitated of future. He cannot move. His legs have been chopped off because of a war. He was a suspected Amazonian response, and they called the interim government every day. So we're waiting for the United States of America to tell us, as citizens from this place, to look at these individuals and despise them. Barrister Ghana, let me come to you. Let me come to you. You have been in the forefront from day one, actually talking with the attorneys. Barrister Tim has given us a cue when it comes to those who were cited in the indictment as victims, and Cardinal Tumi is one of them. Perhaps you want to give us an interlude before I play, based on your recommendations, the first 3 minutes of the statements of Cardinal Tumi. Talk to us, please. And you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Comrade Paddy. Greetings to Barrister Mbesa and to Barrister Funso here. Yes, I am somewhat in the eye of the storm, because all of those who have been arrested have been transferred to Kansas City. I was in court on Thursday during the arraignment of Mr. Claude Chi. I will be there when Comrade Francis Cheney and Comrade Nestor Lamy are being arraigned. I am following closely with the lawyers who have been appointed to defend them. Yes, they have been charged in United States Federal Court of certain charges here. There are 4 counts that they've been charged of. The first count is the count of conspiracy to provide material support, resources. The second count is provide material support towards weapons of mass destruction. The third count is receiving money from a ransom. And the fourth count is participating in money laundering. Before I speak, let me say something very loud and clear. The interim government of Ambazonia, of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, which I believe in and which I am loyal to, does not kidnap as its policy. It does not kidnap civilians on the ground. The interim government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia does not take ransoms. The interim government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia does not encourage or in any way seek to bring duress or harm to civilians on the ground. This interim government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia is there to pursue our emancipation quest towards the restoration of our statehood and our sovereignty. The interim government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia rose up because French Cameroon, aided by France, sent in forces to kill, to maim, to kidnap our people, to burn villages, to destroy our whole being as a community. They are the aggressors. They are the ones who launched war on us. Comrades of ours have been indicted in U.S. federal courts, yes, but there's something about criminal procedure. It's one thing to investigate and to indict. It's another thing to convict that person based on those indictments. To the best of my knowledge, the Federal Republic, the government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia does not authorize, does not engage in some of these charges that they are saying. We have videos with Cardinal Toomey in it, and you're going to play some of those videos. Publicly stating that no ransom was taken from him. And in law, when you are charged of a specific crime relating to that crime having been done to a specific person, you have the right to cross-examine your accuser. So the defense attorneys they have requested and will be provided the files of the indictment by the federal prosecution attorneys. They will be provided all the evidence that was collected by the FBI officials. And when they have received that evidence, then they will start mapping out a path on how to cross-examine those charges. And sometimes there's something in law called summary judgment. And summary judgment is when all the facts are known and we are just left with the matter of law. So our optimistic stand is that these charges might be dismissed right on summary judgment when the lawyers have a chance to review the evidence, and if the evidence does not stand up to par, these charges might be dismissed. When this struggle started, no country that ever takes up struggle for a cause towards emancipating itself expects that it's going to be a cakewalk in the park. When Eritrea took on to fight for its independence, they didn't think that it was going to be easy. When South Sudan took up arms to fight for its independence, they didn't think it was going to be easy. When Namibia, under the banner of SWAPO, took up arms to fight for their independence, they did not think it would be easy. We live in a nation of laws, the United States of America, which took up arms to fight against England to emancipate itself from English colonialism. And George Washington and the band of revolutionaries didn't think it would be easy. We Amazonians know that we are going to face speed bumps on the road, and we are not going to be cowed from pursuing a legitimate cause of emancipating ourselves. We will act within the laws of the countries in which we are domiciled in, but we will not be intimidated from pursuing a legitimate cause of emancipating Amazonia. So I just wanted to put that out there before you start playing those videos from Cardinal Toomey. Thank you.
I would like you to hold your breath, and I would like Ambazonians to hold their breath before we get into the videos of Cardinal Toomey. You've given some necessary updates, which I want you to briefly expand on. You mentioned that's an update the public doesn't have. As a follow-up, they are taking them all to Kansas City, meaning where they were all arrested. They're now, it's going to be in one court. Am I correct?
Where
Correct.
the
They are all
indictment
going to be. They are all going to be. They are all going to make entry of appearance in one court. That's going to be in Kansas City, and that is partly because some of
And
the
that's where
evidence.
Claude is now. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
that's where Mr. Claude Chi resides. You know, the United States federal court system is divided into circuits. Kansas City
Yeah.
belongs to the 8th circuit. So the entries, the trials, if they need to be a trial, is going to occur in the 8th circuit, principally in Kansas City, and the other defendants, Mr. Francis Cheney, who was who made entry in Minnesota, who was arrested in Minnesota, will be transferred to Kansas City. And Mr. Langme Nestor is on the way being transferred to Kansas City. So, so we are going to host or Kansas City, and the 8th Circuit is going to host that trial if a trial is going to be take place. That is if the charges get past summary judgment.
Thank you very much, my fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. Just watch this video and we will come back with an analysis.
And ashes. I saw the house of a man who had run away with his wife and 6 children. Their house had been reduced to dust and ashes. I saw the material of a building water project in beam. The pipes had been all broken. I saw chairs of a cooperative union which had all been broken down. I saw the house of an old man, ramshackled, and I was told that the army had made away with 2 generators of the family. I saw a man looking completely depressed, from whom the army had made away with 800,000 CFA francs. I saw a bar of a young man running a small business from where hundreds of bottles of beer had been taken away by the army. And what could not be taken away was broken. The bits and pieces. I saw windows of houses broken. And I was struck by an old man, by the question an old man asked me. Cardinal, what wrong have we committed that the army should be sent to treat us this way, as if we were, foreigners who had come to ransack the village? I saw crops, corn, beans, coffee, reduced to dust and ashes, the year's harvest gone. And I asked the people, what did the army say you had committed as a fault? What was your fault?
And during your stay in the Northwest region, His Cardinal, did you observe that gunshots and gun battles become nearly a daily issue?
To be frank with you, I observed none of those. I saw nothing. In this village, the people told me that the army said they were looking for guns, but they found no gun.
Do not buy generic Viagra anywhere until you hear what happened when I signed up for an online program offering generic Viagra for $87.
Okay, we have We've heard it. Why we okay? Mr. Ghana is back. I was trying to delay that so that he could come back and let's have this talk. So I saw a paper yesterday. That's from someone on the ground we know, and he captioned, "The indictment could be a blessing." Fortunately, the highlighted name, Christian Wingum Cardinal Toomey, has a 3 minute testimony that we have all heard. I'm wondering who should I start with? Barrister Fru that will be leaving soon, or Barrister Ghana? But maybe Barrister Fru wants to be patient. Barrister Ghana, please.
In law, when you are accused of a crime, there's something called a crime has two parts. There's an act and there's an intent. In Latin, they call that act actus reus, the act that occurred. And they call that intent mens rea, the intent to commit that offense. But both the actus reus and the mens rea can be nullified or can be excused by certain defenses. Right there in that video, you just saw Cardinal Toomey enumerating about the brutal destruction of property belonging to an innocent people. The whole of the southern Cameroons is a crime scene. France and French Cameroon have been killing, maiming, raping, brutalizing, burning southern Cameroonians for the past 6 years. Where has the international community been? Ukraine has been under an onslaught from Russia since February 24th, 2021. The whole world is drafting for Ukraine. If you didn't know that what Cardinal Toomey was talking about was happening in the southern Cameroons, you could have thought he was talking about Ukraine and the invasion of Russia. No, Cardinal Toomey is talking about the southern Cameroons. There is something in law called self-defense and the defense of third persons. As a trained lawyer offering you a legal opinion, if southern Cameroonians are being killed, are being slaughtered in a war that was declared on them when they were armless, then they have a right to self-defense. And there's another concept in law called defense of third parties. Who are third parties? Third parties are people connected to you who are in an imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury. Have southern Cameroonians for the past 6 years been in an imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury? We recall Mami Api, a woman in her 80s who had a bullet through her skull for no reason, but for the fact that she was a southern Cameroonian. We remember the little baby in Kendem who French Cameroonian troops came and picked up and threw in a cauldron of hot boiling oil. We remember the massacres in Gabu that the Cameroon government itself accepted to committing those massacres, where Cameroonian troops came in the dark of night and killed women and children and men, innocent people, and burned their corpses. This story is repeated across every village, every city, every neighborhood, every road in the southern Cameroons. Don't we have a right to self-defense and the defense of people connected to us who are in and continue to be in an imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury? Barrister Fru, maybe you have something more to say.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I happen to have the privilege of meeting personally Cardinal Toomey. I met him in the Metropolitan Archdiocese of Douala, when he had his press conference there one day. And after that, I went and met him personally. I met him in Barrister Nico Hale's residence. And I have come to know him as a pious man, a man who speaks the truth to power, and an eminent man of God. And what he has said in that video, if there's anybody who wants to dispute that, would have disputed that long before he died. Cardinal Tume is now blessed memory. Otherwise, in this trial, we would have brought Cardinal Tume to come and tell the world whether he was kidnapped and ransom was taken from him. This is the second prong of what the indictment is alleging: kidnapping and taking of ransom and money laundering and all that. There is a man called Binglo II who is an unapologetic member of the CPDM, the ruling party of Cameroon, who throughout these 6 years has been working against the interests of the defense of the people that he claims he's fond. He is still there. He's not living. He's not living in his palace. He's living in Yaoundé. For what reason? Reason of the war or whatever. He was together with Cardinal Tume, and there is a video where Cardinal Tume specifically said they were interrogated and released the following morning. There was no ransom taken from them. Like my colleague said, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia does not kidnap people. They can take you in for questioning and release you. Because right now, can Cameroon government tell that they are the ones to implement law on the territory of the southern Cameroons? Do they govern Gokutunja County? No. They are at war. We are at war with them. So we will be waiting to see the witnesses that they will produce, that the prosecution will produce, that will say that, oh, Francheni or Clochi or Langme Nestor caused them to be kidnapped and so much money was paid to them. We're still to see that. Like my colleague said, this case may end in a summary judgment because why up to now the federal prosecutors have not produced the allegations against these three people to their counsel? Well, we're waiting. We're waiting to see what that will produce. It is the indictment is a very easy case. That's why I keep saying we are going to win and we must win. And it's a blessing for the Federal Republic of Ambazonia to put this matter of the people of the southern Cameroons and Ambazonia in the public eye. Because I have always had this impression that the people in the United States don't even know anything about what is happening to us as a people. It is an opportunity for us to showcase what we have been living through, that the world forgot us and can only think about Ukraine. Ukraine is going through exactly what we are going through, but the world is talking about Ukraine. Nobody is talking about Cameroon and the southern Cameroon's conflict. We have a war. We are fighting a war. And the federal prosecution in the United States would prefer to indict those who are defending themselves. I know that in every conflict, the parties must respect the Geneva Convention, the party must respect the engagement, the rules of war, and there should be no war crimes or crimes against humanity. We
And
will
we
see.
saw before Mr. Biya declared war on us, we actually saw gendarmes in
Yes.
Ambazonia
Yes.
beheading on camera. That's something the Ambazonian Restoration Forces have never done, but we are aware there's a group headed by Chuayaba. They have beheaded people on
Exactly.
camera,
And
they took
before that,
responsibility. We
even before
saw
that, Paddy,
Samsoya. This was a crippled that was beheaded. I just wanted to add to your point before we get to Barrister Tim. Go ahead.
yes, yes. Before even that, on the 1st of October 2017, Cameroon used helicopters that were furnished to them by the United States, helicopter warships, and gunned down 122 youths in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, both in Boya and in Bamenda. Before they finally declared that war, that is what they had done. That is a war crime, and nobody is talking about it. We the lawyers here, Barrister Ghana, Barrister Timothy, and me, we have filed a matter in the International Court of Justice against La République du Cameroon. I don't know whether it is moving, it is not moving, whether they are doing any investigation or they don't do any investigation. After all, we are not Ukraine. We are not a European country. We are black people somewhere in the forest of Africa. Nobody cares. Nobody in the world cares about us. But everybody is singing about Ukraine. We will bring this to bear to the people of the United States in the United States court. Let them see the injustices that are being meted on us because we are black people. Let them see the injustice that the world is perpetrating on us. As it happened in Rwanda, it is happening in the Federal Republic of Amazonia, and nobody in the world is talking about it. We will bring that to bear. But rest assured, this so-called indictment will end to nothing. But we would have put the case of the Southern Cameroon to the American people, where freedom is the
We would
order
have
of the
put
day.
it on the spotlight from another dimension, because prior to this time, efforts have been made. The very strong argument of the president and of this interim government is that La République du Cameroon will not determine the laws of Southern Cameroon. We consider them as a force of occupation and administration of occupation. And the president, since last week, has educated the public in different counts, on audio and on video. Barrister Tim, that as an argument that the laws we put in our homeland, Cameroon cannot dare to use their own laws against us, because it would appear from what Nsala, the son of the sellout, is trying to do, is to argue that some legitimacy they have in that sovereign territory that gains its independence, and that based on their colonial laws, we committed a crime in their Cameroons. Please, you want to talk to us? Just by the team.
Yes. Thank you, Paddy. You see, the story is so big and so complex for us to exhaust in one slot. I would want us to treat slot as slot. People will get educated, many more things will be understood. If this, when you started this particular slot, you referred to a newspaper publication in Cameroon, which said, in summary, this might be a blessing in disguise. I will make my input starting from there. See, what Cardinal Toomey was saying, Cardinal Toomey was a very highly placed prelate of the Catholic Church. And in the Christian world, they have this thing they call the end times. They ask Christ, the end of the world, when is it coming? How do we know that it will come and when? He said there will be signs. You will see the signs. People will rise from the graves. People will start to talk. And then we know that the end is coming. What this clip from Cardinal Tumi reveals is the end times for the Republic in Amazonia. Those are signs of the end time. They have ended, they have exhausted all what they had to do. It is contained in that clip. What does Cardinal Tumi say? I met people who have done this, whose house has been burned, who have been killed, who have done that. And then they ask a simple question. What have we done to this government to bring all this to bear on us? And there was no answer. When Christian Tumi was making that clip, the war had not even started. So when these people's houses were being burnt, people were being killed left and right, somebody's bar was being burnt, money was being extorted. What were the people doing? They were running. They were looking for safety. They fled into the moon. They ran into the bushes. They ran for their lives. But there comes a time that even the most cowardly man will stop to run. If you're such a weakling, and I'm coming after you, you run into the bush, I follow you. You enter the river, I follow you. You will stand by, one day you start and say, no, come and kill me while I'm still alive. And so that is what happened. If that's the reason I get from Cardinal Tumi's clip there. Just that particular clip. What he saw. He was reporting to, he was not reporting the war. He was reporting what these people had done to what he saw. His own eyewitness account of what these people were going through. And what were the people saying? They asked him, Cardinal, what have we done on this government for them to bring all this onto us? They had done nothing. And so if they were tired of running, they had nowhere more, no place to hide. They had no place to escape to. And the students say, well, I better die fighting than to go down without even resistance. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Nothing. The indictment, which we have talked about so much about, does not even mention of anything fighting. And again, in addition to what Barzagana has said, nowhere is it indictment, in that indictment, is it mentioned that the people who were abducted or who were doing this were members of the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. No, they are not mentioned there anywhere. There are so many people on the ground, kidnappers, government agents, extorting money, just as you heard in that clip, taking people's property in the name of the struggle, in the name of the government, to cow the people, to subdue them from ever raising a finger of protest anymore. If you survive, you will never do it because you remember, you think back what happened to your late father, what happened to your late wife, what happened to your farm, what happened to your goats. I came from a place, in my village, in my own place where we came from. When they came, the people all ran away. Where they could not find anybody, people ran away, leaving their hens, leaving their chickens, leaving their goats. What did they do? They feasted on them. They ate until they didn't know what to do again. They went to a neighboring town, opened a store where they pirated people's bottle gases, everything they had, and went and sold there. People who had fled. And so this indictment, as that newspaper says, and I tend to believe also, is a blessing in disguise. It will even be unfortunate for this thing to end at this early stage being dismissed. Let this thing go to full hearing.
Yeah. Yep.
So that they will hear Cardinal Tumi talking from the grave. He's a dead man now. He's dead, physically dead. They will see Cardinal Tumi alive. The old Cardinal, telling the reality of what it was. He would have risen from his grave to give that testimony in an American court.
Yeah, gentlemen, I just want
that was the
a
most
comment.
compelling evidence you could find.
Yeah,
This video of Samsoa being beheaded is such that I don't want to see it.
Barrister Mbesa,
Thank you,
as
sir.
we're talking to the world, I would like us to actually show the world is watching us. This is a Cameroon army. This is unheard of. Actually beheading on camera at a time when there was no arm on the ground. That means the least you could see from an Amazonian was a dead gun, a knife, and a stick. The interim government at this time had not even started self-defense full scale. So it's important that when we highlight, when during such times, we have our people and reminded of the atrocities, of the illegality, the cruelty, the criminality, the terrorism of a country, of a people who are desperate to annihilate us. Every time I think of this man's wife is a widow. Now this is caught on camera, and the military officials or gendarmes who were speaking in French, who were proud of this act, make videos. This was not just the only individual that was beheaded. About 4 Amazonians were chopped off their head. The videos and the pictures were presented to their wives and children. So we're talking about a child that might never ever be a normal human being again, because you woke up one morning and saw a video of your father being butchered like chicken. And then Nsala has the audacity, after his own father has betrayed our generation, to do what he's doing. Barrister Ghana, please talk to us.
That image you just showed speaks volumes. It speaks volumes of the cruelty of the Cameroon government. It speaks volumes of the helplessness of our people. And it speaks specifically to the issue of self-defense. What about that picture of a trained Cameroonian army, probably trained with both French and United States funds, beheading an Amazonian does not evoke the rightful legal concept of self-defense. You see, self-defense has certain elements. One, to successfully mount the element of self-defense, you must not be the initial aggressor. French Cameroon declared war on us. Paul Biya declared war on returning from a Francophone summit where he met Macron in Abidjan. And like you rightly said, when they were coming in and killing our people, we did not even have knives to fight back with. And what did they do? They continued the onslaught on our people, as you showed in that video of Cameroon army beheading Sam Sawyer. Self-defense also has the element of the fact that if you are being assaulted, you don't have a duty to retreat. Where are we going to retreat to as Southern Cameroonians? We have to stand and fight for our rights and fight for our territory that belongs to us. Self-defense also has the element that if you are facing an imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury, as Sam Sawyer faced and succumbed to in that video, you can use deadly force to repel your aggressor. We see Cameroon army going into Ngabu, going into parts of Banso, going into parts of Oku, and killing people. What is it that does not give the right of those people in those villages to take up arms to defend themselves against that kind of onslaught? If France can draft and support Ukraine, if England can support Ukraine, Japan, Germany, Switzerland can support Ukraine, if the United States can send HIMARS and Javelin missiles and all of that to defend Ukraine against the onslaught from Russia, why can Southern Cameroonians not also mount that same defense? We have been to the offices of senators. I have met with Senator Dick Durbin. I have met with the senator of the office of Senator Roy Bloin, Congresswoman Sharice Davis, Congresswoman Lisa Shashowski. We have presented our case across all congressional offices in Washington, D.C. We have canvassed all senators.
Let me be sarcastic. Let me be sarcastic. Bear with me. Let me be sarcastic a little bit.
Just a minute. Seeking for the intervention of the United States in this conflict to resolve it. The United States on April 21st, 1961, in UN Resolution 1608, voted for the independence of Ambazonia. And if in association with French Cameroon through a treaty of union, no treaty of union, French Cameroon is a colonial power in Ambazonia. What in international law does not give us that right to self-defense?
I wanted to be sarcastic a little bit so that you can conclude that beauty. But thank God you insisted. Listen, we are the only terrorists in suits going into the offices of senators and writing petitions into the White House. That's according to Cameroon. This is a modern, in fact, we are the terrorists that are actually hoping for a peaceful negotiation. Why the colonial master Yaoundé, not the terror? In fact, which army does this on camera? I've never seen. The US Army doesn't do this, even in Yemen. So I would authenticate by saying that the Cameroonian army is a terrorist army, and it is an apology for mainstream media not to address them as such. We've seen in their own country how an army is actually tried denying to no avail. It's unfortunate. I don't want to waste our time with that video. Shooting a mother, who does that? A mother and a baby on camera with several gunshots. Let's get back to Cardinal Tumi and watch it 2 minutes, and then we will come back to enhance this discussion.
Did you observe that gunshots and gun battles become nearly a daily issue?
To be frank with you, I observed none of those. I saw nothing. In this village, the people told me that the army said they were looking for guns, but they found no gun. This was simple, innocent people. And what was the reason for the presence of the army in Beam? I am told that a soldier had been gunned down by a young man in Yonkui. Yonkui is a village far away from Beam. So the people could not understand why the army came to attack them in Beam. So my conclusion is, I asked myself, brother, if they find a criminal in a village, does everybody in the village become a criminal? That's the question I asked myself.
No, you were equally in the southwest region of the country.
When I was coming back, I spent a night in Mamfe, and I saw the Bishop of Mamfe and Ronkea, who had visited some villages that were reduced to dust and ashes, and an old woman who could not save herself was burnt alive in a village. The people would like to go back, but to where? Where? They have no houses.
The people would like to go back, but to where? Barrister Ghana, you have to come back. Barrister Fru, please. I understand you have about 20 more minutes to be with us. Go right ahead.
Yes. Kadnatumi rightly said the people would like to go back, but there's no village to go. You want to know that as we speak, more than 600 villages and towns in the Federal Republic of Amazonia, that's what they call, what others are referring to now, like the Northwest and Southwest, what they refer to the English part of Cameroon. We have never been part of Cameroon because based on Resolution 1608, which was never applied, we were supposed to have joined La République du Cameroon for independence, but did we actually join? Because there was no Treaty of Union as requested by that resolution. Now, the question I asked myself, does the judicial system in the United States not know that La République du Cameroon is at war with us and they have burned down our villages? And that some of us sitting here and talking, and those who have been charged have no village to go to. Now they can go and sit down and write and make an indictment charging people who, since this war started, have never set foot on the Federal Republic of Amazonia. And they talk about conspiracy. Conspiracy against who? And for who? Conspiracy for the war that was brought upon us by La République du Cameroon. I beg to differ with their own definition of conspiracy. Conspiracy when one or two people, more than one person, connives to do something on a third party.
Conspiracy against
Are
what?
they actually saying that we conspired? Are they saying that we conspired because we have to raise money to make that money available for the defense of our people, self-defense of our people on the ground? Do we know that we have lost 45,000 people so far? And that war is ongoing? I'm not going to start a trial here on television. All I'm saying is that we will go through that trial and we are going to prevail, come rain, come sun, because the world has forgotten us, just like they forgot Rwanda. Rwanda lost more than 1 million people and the world was watching because they are Africans, black people. Well, the war in Ukraine started on the 24th of February, and today Ukraine is the talk of the world. No African has ever been the talk of the world. Look at what is happening in the Congo. Has anybody said anything? Is the world talking about the Congo? No, because they are black people. Like my colleagues have already said, Barrister Tima said, it's a blessing. And the newspaper in Cameroon says it's a blessing. We are going to put that on in the air through this trial so that the American people will know that this is what we are going through. And we will now, the court of public opinion will decide whether blood does not flow in the veins of black people, it only flows in the veins of white people. Ukraine is now being talked on. Almost every news organ in the United States talks about Ukraine. I have never seen anything mentioned about the Southern Cameroon, Amazonia versus La République du Cameroon, a conflict that is forgotten. They themselves admit that it is the most forgotten conflict in the world. You go and ask the Swiss, is it Sweden or Norway? The Norwegian Human Rights Organization says it's the most forgotten conflict in the world. So they have brought an indictment to let the world know, and we are going to make sure that the world knows what is going on. Thank you.
Yeah, before we get back to Cardinal Toomey, I always want to cue in Barrister Mbesea, because this is all encapsulated in this whole legal process. The Ambazonians indicted abroad and some alleged surge. I've seen some individuals reacting to the Cameroon newspaper heralding it. I want us to look. I'm sure some of us would have seen this caption. This is a caption coming in from the Guardian's Post newspaper. We are aware that the Guardians is a La Republique sponsored channel. There's no doubt about that. We're very much aware of their responsibility to, first of all, sabotage the struggle and many other things. And then you see, they say armed conflict in Northwest, Southwest. That's, I hate it anytime they call us that. And you will have them actually highlighting, let me bring that closer so that our people can see. They're saying 70 FBI agents raid Eric Tato's U.S. residence, and then nose tightening on Chris Ano as U.S. security forces invade home, interrogate him, seize phones, computers for more investigation. Well, there are pre-posterior statements that Mr. Anus has said on TV. He has actually said things I don't know if he read. Fortunately, he has his group. He's not part of this government. And he started going into that escalation at a time when he was not in this government. He made on tape, we have it on record. He's saying that they are now going to kill, if he is going to ensure that they kill him and his defense chair, Reverend Asong, I hope that's her name. They are saying that they will kill French Cameroonians in French Cameroon. In fact, they said so on camera. So, but that's not what I want us to focus on. I just thought that we're talking to the international community. We should be able to make distinction when it comes to responsible leadership and the way we go about things. But the team, before we get back to Christian Wingum Toomey's video, I want you to cue in from the assertions you heard him make there.
Before I get to that, let me focus a bit back, a second back on the chopping off of the head of Sam Sawyer. You see, there's something going on. Why are they doing all this? It's not just to punish Sam Sawyer, no. These things are sanctioned, authorized by the government from Yaoundé. Do you have evidence about that? Yes. Clear evidence, not even speculation, no. I remember 2018, 17 or 2018, on the floor of the National Assembly, a parliamentarian took the stand in Yaoundé and said, amongst other things, that guy came from a Bolova. He said, amongst other things, that his son was a soldier fighting in the Anglophone Cameroon. And that he promised him a promotion if he can bring home the heads of 20 Anglophones. This was recorded. I'm sorry, I don't know where we can find it, but we can still find that record there. This is from the floor of the National Assembly. And so when they do these things, the idea is to present them to the government as a trophy. Who promotes soldiers? The government. So these things are actually authorized, they are sanctioned, they are approved by the government. This is what is going on there is not even similar to what happened in Rwanda. No, it's a genocide of a very special kind. In Rwanda, I happened to have booked some part of it there. It was a spontaneous response. People got angry, cut off the head of your wife, cut off the head of your Hutusi. That was spontaneous. But this is so well planned. You cut somebody, place the guy down. After killing him, you want to take off his head to go show somebody as a trophy. Not because that got you anything, no, but because you have killed the enemy that everybody wants to die. So that's the point I wanted to make there. What went on with Sam Sawyer and others is nothing par hasard, as they call it in French. No, it is planned, it is orchestrated, it is accepted, approved by the government. Otherwise, is there any of us who's aware of any La Republic military guy
So we
who
can
has
rightfully
saved
say
time?
it's an organized crime,
Yes, who has
terrorism
saved
crime.
time from the killing of that woman with her children to the cutting off of Sam Sawyer's head and many others. They have not saved time. Nowhere. Not because they didn't know them. Because at every moment the government has said, we are investigating. And in the case of that woman, they came and said, yes, we did it. Then what happened to those guys? In the case of Ngarabo, they came out officially writing down, we did it. And then, where are the perpetrators? They let them go and they promote them. The best thing to do for them all the time is, if you are doing this thing in Kumba, they promote you to Ebolova. If you are doing it in Bamanda, they transfer you to Garwa. So that you will no longer be on the radar. So these are government-approved actions. I've not seen any government in the world, an organized government, that does that to people. It's different from, I don't know, I think the law has not yet found a name for that of genocide.
And then turns around to consistently use the word "le terrorist." That is the biggest paradox in the world.
No, they can call anything. A terrorist is not because someone is not a terrorist, not because someone is not a terrorist because you call him a terrorist. No. You give, like, I mean, this is common in English. You give a dog a bad name and hang it. Yeah, I'm going to find some the terrorist. Yes, again. So you kill them because they are terrorists. Who will promote you for killing a terrorist. And so there's nothing wrong in what they are saying. They're just confirming what they are doing to us because we are terrorists by their own definition. Is that what holds? No. And then before we leave, I don't know, we'll come back to that picture of 70 FBI people raiding the home of whoever. What I have to say, we don't need to waste our time there. But when you see, take my word seriously, when you see these things from Cameroon by their own newspapers, when they start to mount things like that, there's something being cooked behind the screen. When you hear that they have indicted people, then in Nova, oh, they raided Eric Tato's house. Oh, they raided Christian's house. There's something cooking behind the screen. Take my note, take my word. What are they preparing? They are trying to enter another phase of their negotiations. And they are trying to create parties that will invite to be Amazonians. Oh, if you have followed this thing for the past 3 years, always in radio CRTV, the people they wanted to talk to were Eric Tato, Choyaba, Akwanga. So they create those things to create partners that they are going to use in the next phase of their charade of a discussion. They put out those things. Again, look at what happened just 2-3 years ago. When they did not succeed in Grand National Dialogue, what did they do? They created parties through the CDN. They created something called CDN. Call their people, call from you, call them, say, okay, just go and do this thing, we'll give you money, pretend to be making peace. They went there, and what did they do? They went to Canada. The best thing that came out of Canada, they said, well, our people is doing so bad, yeah, this is not very good. But we are the ones competent to preside over any peace talks with them. They created it, did not work. When the CDN a year ago did not work, they created Canada too. Okay, Asian ambassador from Canada, help us. Call these Anglophones. They are trying to help us by their own standard negotiate. Who will negotiate with them? So when you see those things coming out of them, read beyond the screens. This newspaper, the story that is unfolding, and you see unfold in the next 6 months. Thank you.
This is amazing. I beg with Barrister Ghana to give us this last 10 minutes. Let's process our discussions with Barrister Fru. The images are quite many. And before I even get into this image, so that Barrister Fru would have to comment on it as he exits, he's leaving in the next 10 minutes. We can continue our discussion. You have just mentioned something, Barrister Tim. Cameroon has affirmed in their behavior. When we were growing up and we were reading some papers from the Fonkoji Dinka, these were not popular voices, but they were speaking legality. And we now see some trying to distinguish or separate. Barrister Ghana now handle that, trying to separate Ambazonia from Southern Cameroons as a Cameroon's way of now Cameroon has agreed that there's a Southern Cameroon, and they are using their enablers to distinguish between Ambazonia and Southern Cameroon. That is a discussion for the future or another day. But here is the concern. It's about the attitude of a government that had premeditated, pre-planned a strategy and said to themselves, if these people revolt, this is what will happen. Because when we started questioning in 2016, it was a re-question. They were spontaneous. They knew exactly what to say, what to do at every level. They started with their normal way of trying to bribe, intimidate, arrest, and kill. And it got our own generation that never again radicalized to this moment. Barrister Fru, please, as you conclude before leaving, there's so much we'll have to discuss. I will miss you. I want you to be able to process, you are at the home front, process this discussion from 2016 into today, the human rights abuse, until when the international community or mainstream had the figures of the carnage frozen. Talk to us.
Yes. La Republic de Cameroon has always treated us like second-class citizens, and not only that, like a conquered people. They have moved into our territory for the last 60 years. They move and do kale and kill our people and get away with it scot-free. They do everything to provoke us for 60 years, and we're still growing up and we never reacted. La Republique du Cameroon has been known to violate the human rights of our people and even their own people for many years. But since they have the umbrella of the French, they have never been apprehended or punished for any human rights violation. You see, if you read very carefully the criminal complaint we filed at the ICC, you will see how we catalog all the human rights violations, all the atrocities and crimes against humanity committed on our territory during this period of war by officials, military and civilian officials of La Republique du Cameroon. You will discover that we were even worse than Rwanda. And to tell you the truth, a lot of human rights organizations have that report. They have the filings that we did in the ICC and in most European countries that have universal jurisdictions. Look at the pictures you are showing. Those are Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians slaughtered in cold blood by La Republique du Cameroon forces. I guess the judicial system of the United States was not taking judicial notice of this. Otherwise, people who have been living in the United States for a very long time, they are citizens of the United States, but with origin from Cameroon, cannot stand to see this done to their people, and they sit quiet, and because they will be accused of having raised money to finance a war that has been unleashed on us by a conventional army of La République du Cameroon with all the sophisticated weapons, machine guns, and what you name them. They move into our territory and slaughter our people, commit atrocities. Nobody is seeing that. And now they are accusing us of financing our people on the ground to procure the means of defending themselves against this kind of slaughter and atrocity crimes committed by a conventional army, a conventional country, a member of the United Nations called La République du Cameroon. We have been through it all, and this is the climax of it. Fortunately, we are living in a democracy, in a land of freedom, where the law is respected. These atrocity crimes that you have just been showing, Paddy, will be produced in open court. Let the American people see exactly what the federal prosecutors are about to unleash. I'm sure that they will now know that this case maybe was intended to show to the American people what these Africans are going through. Black on black crime, black on black colonialism, black on black atrocity crimes, war crimes committed by black people on their black brothers, and the world is watching. Well, Russia is white, Ukraine is white. Russia is committing the atrocities on Ukraine, and the world is talking. Is it because maybe we Africans don't have people to talk for us? I wouldn't know. Look, when Kofi Annan was in power, Rwanda happened. And the very white people sitting in New York declared, never again. Is it not happening in the southern Cameroons? When I started this thing, I said we are not going to enter into the nitty-gritties of this matter that is pending before the courts because we are not authorized to. But the American people have a right to know.
Yeah.
And we will bring that to the American.
The international community that is kind of silent.
The community may not watch this trial. The international community may not get it.
Take note, we are streaming globally from all our platforms right now. We're streaming in sub-Saharan Africa. We're streaming via our private page in every continent of the world. And I just want to use this opportunity to tell Amazonians that the media is also against us. You've got to stand now and support us. We will be starting January, we're getting into Amazon. We'll get into Amazon Prime and Roku TV. Arrangements have already started. We will be giving to you an app, an iOS app, and an Android app. We want to present to you these stories in every soluble form possible. And fortunately, we are having a visionary leadership that is determined to make sure that we achieve this as a people. Now, it didn't end there. As we say goodbye to Barrister Fru, I want us to look at an aspect of this particular incident where 40 civilians were killed by Cameroon. This is beyond measure, war crime. Were killed by Cameroon and gassed and burnt down. This can only be Hitler. It is not possible to see this in anywhere in the world that there is no Hitler. It has never happened. I would like to zoom in. You can see the images for yourself. This was not Photoshop. I do Photoshop. It was more than Photoshop. The S is there. And I'm happy that you gentlemen are taking it seriously. Take it down. Now, 40 civilians were burnt, were killed. 40 civilians were killed. And a few hours later on, the same army, in an attempt to hide their crime or whatever they wanted to do, will gas them and roast them like chicken. This is what happens to my land of birth. This is what some corrupt individuals in La République du Cameroon are trying to lobby a nation of law to stop us from fighting against. This is the existential battle. This is the calculated attempt of criminal faction to disappear us from the surface of the earth. This is it. How loud can we shout? How many buckets of tears do we need to cry the Atlantic Ocean before the world realizes that the time is now for a robust intervention? Barrister Ghana.
Sorry, Paddy, I have to go. Thank you very much.
Yes,
you control my colleague, and we'll talk later.
Yes, thank you for being a part of this program. Barrister Ghana, please talk to us.
Before I even comment on those pictures, I want to pedal back to something Cardinal Tumi said. Remember when Cardinal Tumi spoke about stopping at Manfe? He recounted the incident of the Cameroonian army going into this village and killing, maiming. And there was this old lady who could not run. And what did they do? Not Mami Api. We were talking about the one in Manfe.
Okay.
They burned this lady in the house. If you listen to that Cardinal Tumi tape, they roasted the lady in the house. This also goes to an incident that happened in Banso, where there was a handicapped person who, when they came, the people ran, the handicapped person could not run. What did the Cameroon army do? They roasted this person alive in their house. These are the type of barbaric atrocities that are being committed by the Cameroon army on the people of the southern Cameroons, on the people of Ambazonia. Those pictures that you're showing happened in Bali, where the army went, rounded a bunch of young men. As you can see, they were all men in that picture, killed them, and as if killing them was not enough, they set fire to their bodies. And that this is not relegated to Bali. This kind of brutality, the murdering of innocent civilians and the setting of fire to their corpse, is something that the Cameroon army has been doing. How are Ambazonians supposed to sit and fold their arms and just wait for the Cameroon army to drive into their villages, drive into their interiors willy-nilly and kill them in such barbaric ways? Cardinal Tumi captured what was happening in such exaction. And so you wanted to play some other tapes by Cardinal Tumi?
Yes. Let me play that, and we will immediately.
And the masses.
What I saw now, the destruction was done by the army, by the military. For example, there were no secessionists there. No. It is the army that's doing the havoc. We condemn deaths whether of a military man or of a, that should be condemned. But if the army goes into a village, what is the purpose of its presence there? Is it just to ransack everyone?
Here's another myth. Smile Direct Club damages teeth and causes them to fall out. This is not true.
To kill whoever they saw? I'm just asking. If a military life, every life is sacred. That of the life of a civilian is sacred. The life of a military is sacred. But I do not think that it is the mission of the army to do away with the property of the civilians. I don't think so. Army does doing away with the property of the civilians.
The army that is supposed to be protecting the people and the properties.
Well, if they are looking for a criminal, let them look for the criminal with all patience. They should not draw the conclusion that since the criminal was from this village, everybody in the village is a criminal. It's not a logical conclusion. I don't think so.
And from what you're saying, from all indications, many are paying the price for a crime they have never committed.
Exact. That is why this old man asked me the question, what have we done that the government should send a whole army to come and destroy our village? You know, to see it. The village is now empty. People are away from the village. They don't know. But like this man with his wife and 6 children, nobody knows where they are. I visited the house, burnt it down. Know that I go by hearsay. What I go by hearsay is what the Bishop of Manfred told me. I spent some time, a whole day with him, and he showed me the pictures, with the, it's easy now to make pictures with the telephone and all that. He has all that, ready to make a report.
Showed you pictures of villages like Kwakwa and the others?
Kwakwa, yes, I heard about that name, but I don't know the place, but I hear also that atrocities were committed there, as in Tarh. And as I said, the killing of a military man did not take place in Tarh, as some say. Nor did it take place in Bim. It took place in Yunkui, and Yunkui is kilometers away from these 2 places.
And the response of the military came upon people far away from the place where
kilometers away. Not that I hear say I went there.
Gentlemen, it would appear that Cardinal Wiggum Christian Toomey may end up being the only testifier that we need to prosecute. We may just start and end with him. Please, Barrister Mbesea, you heard it. How much can we say? Go ahead.
Well, I'd earlier addressed that issue by saying that there is dead living testifying in a court today. And I had said that in the Bible, you asked Christ, when shall we know the end times? I said, when the dead will rise up, you see them going down the street. And I said again a few minutes ago, this is the end time of a Republic occupation of Amazonia. Those who will watch this evidence and listen to what the Cardinal, may so rest in peace, said when he was alive, will come to no conclusion other than now. No human being should go through what we have gone through. Truth to truth, as they put it in French. Luckily, those of us who have survived other than Mama Happy and all these who are dead. Those who have survived will pick the spoils and live their lives without the Republic. That's what I said. Thank you.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. Sometimes it's good for us to talk to them in their own tongue. True, say true. This is unfortunate. Barrister Ghana, please.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Barrister Mbesa. If you listen to what Cardinal Tumi is saying, first of all, let me go into law. What is acceptable evidence? Acceptable evidence is evidence that comes from a credible source, that is uncontroverted, that is corroborated, and evidence that is not made in the self-interest for some other reason. Those are the attributes that can make evidence admissible to assert the matter that is being disputed in court. If you listen to what Cardinal Tumi is saying, that is direct testimony of an individual of that high moral caliber who visited the crime scenes. And Cardinal Tumi says those atrocities were caused by who? By the Cameroonian military, sent by Biya, funded by Biya and France.
With specific instructions.
With specific instructions to kill, to burn, to maim, to rape, to kidnap. That's what Cardinal Tumi is saying. For what reason? For no reason. Just to humiliate and subjugate the population. Right there in Cardinal Tumi's own words, corroborated, uncontroverted, direct, of what the Cameroonian military is doing in the southern Cameroons. Is there to steal property, to deprive the people of their property, and what they cannot steal, they break just to ensure that they bring hardship to the people. How can Ambazonians watch all of this as is being reported in Cardinal Tumi's own mouth and stay silent?
Impossible.
There is a defense against the crime of you having counter-attack or attack somebody. That defense is the defense of necessity. What are the attributes to the defense of necessity? One, the act must be justified. Is it justified for Ambazonians to rise up to defend themselves against an army that is coming in and killing its peoples, as Cardinal Tumi said, without just cause? What is another element of the defense of necessity? There have to be no reasonable alternatives. What alternatives do the Ambazonian people have? The African Union is sitting and watching. The European Union is making statements and doing nothing. The American government is issuing statements and, I have to say, not doing anything. The United Nations cannot even send a fact-finding mission to the southern Cameroons. What alternative do the Ambazonian people have? Which brings in the defense of what? Necessity. And again, what is another attribute to the defense of necessity? The individual or the people mounting the defense must not have been the ones to have done something to create the dilemma. When Paul Biya, the diaper-wearing octogenarian in Etudes, sent Cameroon forces into the southern Cameroons, in September of 2017 and ongoing since then. What did we do to deserve that kind of a criminal, brutal, and genocidal onslaught? Nothing. What did the Southern Cameroon's lawyers do to be beaten and humiliated and rubbed in mud just because they did not want judges trained in civil law to be adjudicating cases in Southern Cameroon's courts based on common law? Just because they did not want teachers studied in French to be teaching students and audiences who are English. How can you send magistrates who speak French based on the civil law to come and be adjudicating cases with a population that is English speaking? How can those people receive proper representation in court? So what did we do to deserve that kind of an aggression from a well-trained professional army sent to kill, to maim, to rape, to humiliate, to steal? The Southern Cameroons did not do anything to put ourselves in that dilemma. The foraging need of French Cameroon and France to seize territory that it does not have title to colonize the Southern Cameroons against the absence of any treaty of union. UN Resolution 1608 says the governing authority of the Southern Cameroon and the Guardian and French Cameroon have to sit down to work out the modalities of any union. That is in paragraph 5, UN Resolution 1608. When has that ever happened? Never. And he just sent in his forces in September of 1961. He sent in dams to come occupy the Southern Cameroon. We are an occupied people. We are an annexed people. We are a colonized people. The Frenchman who oversaw all of this, Pierre Mesmer, spoke in his own book titled Le Blanc S'en Va. If you read on in page 135 of that autobiography by Pierre Mesmer, he said, in French, he says, sauf en apparence, une annexation. But in appearance, it was an annexation. And the United Nations gives a people who have the right to self-determination the right to use force to free themselves. And so when they are bringing these charges, when they are indicting our comrades, because they refuse to sit idly by and let our people be slaughtered, we are going to litigate this in the court of laws. And I'm going to tell you something. I was in the courthouse when Mr. Claude Chi was being indicted. And the FBI official who collected the evidence was there on the stand being cross-examined by the defense attorney. And he asked the defense attorney, are you aware of the concept in law that gives people the right to defend themselves, as well as to defend third parties who are in imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury? The FBI official did not know any of that. He asked the FBI official, are you aware of what has been happening in Cameroon since 2017, the brutal killing of Southern Cameroonians? The FBI official did not know anything about all of that. That was just the beginning. This case is just starting.
Barrister Ghana,
we failed in U.S. court. Go ahead.
Barrister Ghana, listening to you, I would like you to just talk all day and not stop. Your expose is exceptional. Now you are saying from the facts presented on this platform today that our collective agreement, after years and decades of despised petitions, was a desperate and our collective agreement to go into self-defense or the armed struggle, after years of despised petitions, decades of despised petition, and of course, from Ngozi Dinka suggested in the 90s and said, listen, I have understood these people. That's after he had been intimidated, beaten, arrested, and he escaped. And he told Southern Cameroonians, listen to me, the only way forward will be to pick up arms. So you're affirming today that that was a desperate and the only way for us to exist. Because these people, enhanced and energized by France, were ready. They would rather just wipe us off the earth and own what belongs to us.
Correct. We've had that gun over our heads for about 60 years. For Ngozi Dinka, His Royal Highness, which you talked about, tried all peaceful means to redress this issue. He wrote to the Cameroonian Etat Major. He wrote, dissolve the time bomb. What did they do? They arrested him. They put him on through a military tribunal in Cameroon. The Cameroon military itself freed Ngozi Dinka. The Cameroon military tried him and freed him because they could not prove any charges against him. What did they do? What did the Cameroon government do? They still locked him in Kondengi, tortured him until he had a stroke, until he had to look for means to escape, and he's been living in exile. Pa Augustine Dangam, they fought under the slogan, the force of argument, not the argument of force, didn't they? What did the Cameroon military do? They jailed them repeatedly, they tortured them, they attacked Pandangam's house in Bali, and they burned that house down. Pandangam had to escape with the onslaught of the Cameroonian military coming in to kill him. And when they came and they didn't find him, they burned his house, burned all memorabilia, burned everything. What alternatives have the people of Southern Cameroon had? Nil, zero. And so, yes, we are facing these charges, but these charges will expose the fact that French Cameroon does not own title to the Southern Cameroons. We'll have to ask them to prove title to demonstrate that that is a territory which they have legitimate reasons to administer. And all of those companies that are exploring and exploiting resources in the Southern Cameroons, be on the watch. Because you're exploring resources from a territory through a party that does not have title. French Cameroon does not have title to the Southern Cameroons. So for all of these companies, course of actions can and will be brought in court to seek legal redress and remedy for all what is happening. And so this trial that is taking place in the United States Federal Court, that will be taking place in Kansas City, in a city where I attended law school at. We look forward to doing all in our power to ensure that our comrades have all the defense that they need to exculpate themselves of these charges. First of all, we don't even know if these charges are going to stick. We haven't seen the evidence that is being brought against them. We don't even know if they committed these acts that they are being accused of. We have no proof that they were encouraging or participating in any ransom taking. We have no proof that they were encouraging or participating in any kidnapping. So these charges, we don't even know if there is any acceptable and substantial proof. And proof in court is not just something that somebody in Cameroon said about something that they might have allegedly
Mommy
done.
died in the morning and woke up in the night.
Proof has to
Thank
go
you very
through
much. I'm just
the
trying
prism.
to
Proof has to go through the prism and the litmus test of hearsay. Does it meet the evidentiary test to be admitted into a court of law? So we don't even know if these allegations are going to stick against them. So let's not be in any way coward from standing up for the rights of our people.
Thank you very much, Barrister Ghana. We are exhausting our time. I'm pleading with the newsroom to give us another 10 minutes. But this is the point. We get back into a 1 minute excerpt of Cardinal Tume's video. I'm very glad that you brought in the aspect of our resources. That is the purpose of this war. And that's why they plotted to frustrate our decolonization process and then to finally invade our territory. That's the reason why, when you calculate and say that we have lost about 45,000 Amazonians since the beginning of the war, I would say we should learn to go back history, because the genocide did not begin today. The genocide began. Unfortunately, there was no social media. There was no us to make the world know that a genocide is taking place in Amazonia. Because when Ayijo invaded with the Zakawas that he called at the time gendarmes, invaded our territory with those Zakawas, dozens, hundreds, and thousands of Amazonians were killed through intimidation. In fact, I was born in the early 80s, and you just see people disappear. In 1992, when Frundi lost the election, lots of people you knew disappeared.
When Frundi was deprived of his victory in the election, he did not lose the election. When he was deprived of his victory.
You have to forgive me. When he was deprived, forgive me for that error. We lost hundreds and thousands. It did not start today. And the loftiness, arrogance of Biya didn't start today. In 2008, Biya stood on camera. The entire world sat quiet and called the people apprentice sorciers and sent Zakawas, Sango from Bangui, into every street in the two Cameroons, because the people were asking for something with a peaceful protest, and told people, if you go out there, I'm going to kill you. Who does that? Who does that? Let's watch Christian Tume, and we will come back to that.
And talking about the administration, His Eminence, despite the disturbing situation that you're painting in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, the implementation of stringent security measures announced by the President of the Republic in his end of year address to the nation on the 31st of December, which some have qualified now as a declaration of war on the Anglophone,
I think that was exaggerated.
Continues on the ground.
I'm sorry to say the President exaggerated the presence of the army in the English-speaking part of the country. It's no solution.
And that continues, however, despite...
Well, if it continues, we will never get a solution to the problem. With a human being, you reason. You do not use violence as if you are, treating a beast. You reason. That's why the world, I can say the world, is calling for dialogue. It's not violent.
And His Eminence, when you see the situation...
Well, we have this. It's unfortunate that Cameroon cannot hide this no more. We have it recorded as we speak now. We are recording it again. You cannot hide this. So, you gentlemen, you speak to us very briefly, because I want us to tackle, as we close, this aspect of a so-called activist with his free diction, trying to mobilize a mob to assault and abuse our president, and that's Mark Barata. I would say one minute each. Let's comment on what Cardinal Tume just said now concerning this war and tackle that issue, because it's a burning desire of Ambazonians and legal minds like you. I would have responded to him. A couple of platforms where he is. I would have also sent an audio to react to this. But then I thought that it would be good for him to be disciplined appropriately. That's why I stayed quiet. But let's just conclude on the day Biya declared war on Amazonia. And that is what we heard Equinox journalists there highlighting. Please, I start with you, Barrister Mbisa.
Yeah, Barrister Mbesa, proceed.
I think the thing we can take from Christian Toomey, yes, he has done all that to tell the truth about us. But to be fair to him, he seems to be the redeemer of La Republic that they cannot recognize. Christian Toomey is from Bui, he's one of us. But he spent all his career with La Republic. In fact, his first job as a bishop was in Yagua. I was there when he came in 1978. And since then, he lived in Yagua, Bishop of Yagua, Archbishop of Garoua, Archbishop of Douala. Close to 40, 50 years of career living with these people. So he knows them. They know him. And so when he says, these matters do not call for the army, you are not going to find a solution militarily, they should have taken him seriously. They ought to take him seriously because he is speaking from the heart of it. They had their own problems. They have the problem of the North and the South. Even in the North, they have the problem of the Massas, the blacks, who are in Yagua, and the Fulanese, who are in Garoua, and so on and so on, the Christians and the Muslims. They are all there, and he has lived it. He lived in Yagua, where the black Massas are. Then he came to Garoua, to Garoua, as the Archbishop of Garoua, where the Fulanese were there, fighting with the Christians. Then he ended up in Douala, one of the most cosmopolitan towns in Cameroon. And he lived those things. He saw it. Then, of course, he went to Biame, that is his own village, and saw what happened. He saw the army decimate the place. I said, look, this is not a problem we can solve with the military. They didn't take him seriously. They will learn to take him seriously as the events unfold. Unfortunately for them, he's dead. But fortunately for them, he didn't die silent. He died leaving this recorded news that will remain forever and ever valuable to them. Again, we don't have time. I should have just added something. You see, La Republic did not start, these things that are happening now did not come by coincidence. They have been happening forever. Most of us who are young will not know. This purported journey in 1961 was all a fraud. But not just because you are saying, after 1961, 3 years after that, in fact, when they joined, they purported to join, they gave Mr. Foncha a double function. He had the vice president and also the prime minister of West Cameroon. 3 years after that, just 3 years after that, they said this is unfolding. They sought to decapitate him. And they came to Boya and said, well, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, you cannot have these double functions. You have to come to Yaoundé and leave the post of Prime Minister. Because in the federal constitution, they are written something there that the prime ministers of the states shall be appointed by president. When they came to West Cameroon in 1964 to take away Foncha to Yaoundé, they thought that was an opportunity. But they met a rock. They didn't know that what was happening in West Cameroon was a parliamentary rule. So the prime minister's appointment will be based on the party that had won the elections. So the people said, no, well, if Foncha is going, you don't have to appoint the prime minister. The ruling party, the KNDP, will have to elect the prime minister. And so he left saddened. That's how Jua got there. But that did not end their trip. They go, well, we have to take away this guy. And like, we have this notion that we have just developed called coup plotters. Coup plotters have been in our struggle forever. They created coup plotters. Right there in 1964-67. What did they do? He created a chief coup plotter in the name of S.T. Muna and E.T. Igwe and others. I said, okay, they were all in Yaoundé. E.T. Igwe was in Yaoundé. Estimuna was in Yaoundé. They said, call them and say, form your own party. Because they had come to Yaoundé after 1961 as KNDP representatives of the government. 67 said, okay, form your own party, Mr. Muna.
So it's a recycle.
Yes.
Muna
then created CPNC. Muna, the chief coup plotter, chief black leg, now created CPNC in 1967. And armed with this, he said, okay, you now have a party. You can now resign from Jua frontier government. And then he brought him in the plane. 1967 and said, okay, I'm installing a new prime minister because he's no longer part of the KNDP. That's how he installed Mr. St. Muna as the prime minister of West, except time doubling as vice president of the
We're gonna continue this discussion tomorrow. I will solicit with Dr. Mungwa to see if you can be a part of.
So the coup plotters have been there forever, and so Muna with Eti Igbe and other, they fired Funcha and his own team that he brought to Yaoundé. The other people who were living in there were Dr. Fonda. So by the time that these people were living, there was anybody left in Yaoundé in the name of KNDP. Muna came in to be used, and he was used. They used him between 1967 to 1972 and dumped him, created a post for him called Speaker for 10-15 years. Yeah. And then they abolished the federation, the so-called post of that thing in 1984, dumped him.
Now, like I said, we will get back to this.
So he died in misery. Etiegwe died in misery. All of them died in misery. Fonka Laurent Shank died in misery. So coup plotting, again, the point I'm talking is coup plotting did not start in 2022. It has been there in our struggle forever. But coup plotters have never had a happy ending in this event.
Thank you very much. You see this, I want to just play this video. You see Barrister Ghana is somebody that works a lot. Him and I did not sleep this night. I remember him telling me this morning that I should try to catch some sleep before this program, of which I managed to have about 3 hours of sleep. So I want us to conclude in the next 5 minutes. But let's process this audio, this video footage that you would have Mark Barata providing to his friends a framework on how they will use it. We have it recorded in audio visual. And only Chris Anu can anchor such a program. And except that Mark Barata would want the president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia to be assaulted. This is what I want to say to Amazonians. First of all, what he's putting as a strategy, if we have to go, we have the majority, we will beat them. But should we go that low? I can beat Mark Barata as an individual. If I want to go ghetto, I'll beat him. But this is the point. Are we going to go that? Are we going to continue letting imposters, shenanigans, to continue with this arrogance? I don't think we should go that. Even if we rally, Dr. Sako's supporters will be more than their supporters who have proven it. That's why they cannot have money. So they are being disgruntled that Dr. Sako is galvanizing money. Yes, the people continue to trust him because he knows what to do with the money. So this is the point. I want us to listen to this again. Amazonians worldwide, home and abroad, listen to this so that you understand why we will be critical and categorical with the proceedings against Mark Barata. And if he thinks that we'll meet him in this milieu to fight with him, he has just crossed the red line. Listen to this.
Like you call, Chris, is one of the characteristics of a revolution. The case of Amazonia is not an exception, but it is not the worst. But we can manage it. And we can only begin
to ask you, you raise an important point there, Aaron. You have black legs on ground zero. The restoration forces can pick them up. What do you do with black legs in the diaspora?
That's the question, Chris. That's
Can
the question.
anybody answer that question amongst all
Let
of
me give
you?
an answer. Let me give an
Yes,
answer.
I can answer that.
All right,
Let me give
Mark,
an
go
answer.
first, please. Mark, you
That's
go
the
first.
question.
Yes. Let me give an answer. Let us live within our realities in the diaspora. Okay? And while also our people on the ground are living within I want us to be factual. Listen, once we have defined and we have said, we define and we say part A, part B, this person in the diaspora is a black leg, and it is the person has made all those points of a black leg, massa. We can rally and we go more beaten, get that person well beaten. Listen, nobody, none of us in the diaspora has been beaten. That's a simple truth, you know. Just take for example, people in USA in a whole meeting, like let's say Sako calls now for a gathering meeting, and there's a public open fighting. It's an open fight. They won't want anyone. They won't know who has hit Sako on his head, punch him on his face. Open beating, you know. So we need to.
I don't need to listen to that. Honestly, if I'm in a place where Mark Barata is right now, we will change blows. We will exchange blows. But then that will be a credit. It will be for his benefit, because the kind of discipline I want Mark Barata to have, and I would like some people to give this information to him, is more than me and him exchanging blows. This is a man trying to mobilize people to abuse or assault the president. Legal minds, please, you have about 90 seconds each for us to talk. We will definitely come back to this on Wednesday. I believe Ochiba Nelson and myself and others will handle this. But let's talk on this very briefly. Barrister Ghana, please.
Well, it's illegal, first of all, to incite violence against a citizen or a resident in the United States. U.S. law brings that accommodation for somebody who commits or incites violence against a citizen of the United States to be sued again in federal court. So Mark Barata can be sued. Problem is that he's out there in Europe, and then you might have to deal with issues of extradition. But he is arousing people to violence is a criminal act. So right there, he is committing a crime. But I want to tie this more back to what Barrister Mbesa said. And you guys should listen very carefully. I'm talking to the audience now. Dr. Sako is a very competent leader. He might not be a perfect leader. There is no perfect leader out there, but he's a very competent leader. And it's always wishful thinking to wish that maybe we had somebody else. The interim government has a constitution, and their constitutional means that we can address leadership when need be. We know that for sure. Barrister Mbesa talked about Ahidjo creating his own coup plotters, who then were used, directed, and employed to destabilize the Southern Cameroons. We came into this fraudulent union as a unit. We came as a people with a constitution. The Southern Cameroons government from 1954 to 1958, and from 1958 on to 1961, and even after 1961, was based on a constitutional democracy. Ahidjo had to come in, as Barrister Mbesa has said, and pluck people like Muna out of the KNDP to create their own sub-parties that he now sought those parties to merge with Union Camerounaise, UC, that became CNU, and now use these coup plotters now to destabilize the Southern Cameroon. So by 1966, all the parties had been merged. But by 1968, Honorable Ngombo Bejua was overthrown and Estimuna was imposed. And like Barrister Mbesa said, all of these things are strategic and categorical, planned by Yaoundé to execute our submission. By 1972, they had defeated most of the opposition. that they now conducted the fake referendum, where the choice was between yes and we, to turn the fake Federal Republic of Cameroon into the fake United Republic of Cameroon. And so what Barrister Mbesa is saying is very true. But I mean, and I want to go back. If you read Abed Mukong's book, Prisoner Without a Crime, where people who rose up against this aberration were locked up. Abed Mukong was locked up in Kondongi, and then later transferred to Chuali in the north and all of that. So the history of this, their systematic plotting to decapitate us of our sovereignty is not new. It has just run into a snack now where they thought that they were going to take 3 weeks to come and decapitate the Southern Cameroons and finally seize title over our territory through conquest. I have always said this, that the attempt to start changing our magistrates and bringing French-trained magistrates and bringing French-trained teachers into our territory is not unconnected to the death of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Because the French knew that if there was anybody on the African continent who could stand up to help us in our fight against them, that was Gaddafi. But the death of Gaddafi in 2011 ushered the chance for the French to now start plotting in 2013 against us towards seizing our territory. And though these charges, these events might have come to a head in 2015, 2016, they actually started in 2013, because that is when the lawyers started writing to the Minister of Justice trying to redress some of these aberrations that were being imposed on our people. So when I look at what Mark Barata is saying, it is consistent with French Cameroon's drive to decapitate us of legitimate leadership. The current interim government was formed out of processes that happened in Nigeria. It came out of the fourth conclave. We need to be able to accept the institutions that we have and seek to make changes within those institutions. President Sako did not seek to become president, and President Sako did not orchestrate the capturing of the Naira 10, which ultimately ushered him onto power through elections within the interim government.
Legitimate to a legal process.
Correct.
The take home, Barrister Ghana, is the legitimacy of his leadership and the illegitimacy of coup plotters and coup plotting.
Correct.
That's the take home. I'd like us to move into the newsroom right now. Barrister Mbesa, please give us a 90 seconds take home.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think you see, when you hear that, listen to that clip from Barata, it sounds interesting. But before you get there, there was something before, because I listened to it earlier. They were discussing blacklegs. And who is a blackleg by their own definition?
Yeah, by that
who are the people that they will bring into a house and beat them up? One of the qualities for being a blackleg, as said there, probably by Anu, I think I listened to it very well, was the ability of raising money without authority. They're raising money. So if somebody raises money against you, he's a blackleg. So you see the mentality of leadership. He didn't say stealing money like they stole from the bank. Now, of raising money, people voluntarily giving money for the struggle. If you're a leader doing that, you're a blackleg. You should be brought into the room, clubbed to death. But then, that's the notion of blackleg. But who is Mark Barata in the first place? Who is this guy? Nobody knew Barata anywhere. He fell from nowhere when they adopted the consortium. He had never been anywhere. Mark Barata and Avo Tapang were brought in, and they render a service which they have refused to recognize that they have come to the end of their service. Where is Mabarata today in the struggle? Nowhere. Where is Avo Tapang Tanku? Nowhere. But they saved something for 3 or 4 months. Their duty is over. Wasting time talking about idiots like that, I'm sorry to call him an idiot, it's my waste of time. First, he doesn't even know how the United States look like. He cannot even come to the United States to give evidence in a court. And so, what he said, and then if he saw his audience, including Mr. Anu, they were laughing at him.
Listen, I want to say this not in any form of an insult, but to describe the reality. I tell people all the time that Anu doesn't have sense. I know him. He had the grace of working with intelligent people, and to prove that he was a door, within less than 6 months, he reduced the most functional department of the interim government at the time, the legacy of Milton Tucker. He reduced it into an Anchorman show. Gentlemen, I wish we could proceed with this discussion, but then I will.
Yeah, I would rather suggest before you end that one. What I always said about Mr. Anu or whoever wants to assume leadership is deliver, and you will be praised by your actions and by your deeds. Mr. Anu is the president, but coincidentally, he's also the president, the spokesman. He's the anchor for whatever thing he does there. Let him get the people to get the money that is complaining about being raised. Let him raise the money.
Yeah,
This is what is important. Let him deliver. I've said this 2 days ago of Mbakuro. Go to ground zero or home front. Take the leadership of the home front command. And I'll call Mr. Mbakuro, President Mbakuro, Honorable Mbakuro, His Excellency. Go do that. Once you do that, if others don't do it for you, I will give you the honor. So Mark Barata, shut up. Shut up and do what you can. You have exhausted, you have outlived your usefulness in this struggle. So just shut up. You cannot even order a flight. You don't even have a place to call a meeting to beat somebody else. You cannot even call a meeting of your wife. You have one. And your one child, if there isn't it. So how much more of organizing a meeting in the United States? A crowd of 500 people attending a meeting, you causing a fight that they will punch Sakoa. Nobody knows. It's an all-for-all fight. Nobody knows who is punching who. You are a foolish man. In every meeting house, there will have cameras that will dictate who is speaking, who is going to pee, who is going to talk secret to somebody. We'll have those things here. You don't just know. I'm sorry about that. Get yourself educated first before you go on TV next time. Thank you.
I wish I could have this discussion again for the next 30 minutes, but we have intruded into the news time for at least an hour. And I want to thank the news team for standing by. They are ready. Ambazonia, stay tuned. Tomorrow we're having the Secretary of State for Communications and IT at I think we're going to start early tomorrow so that he can receive calls from the public. So the news will come up by 7 p.m. Amber time. And I hope to have the press secretary join us in the discussions for tomorrow. Barrister Besea and Barrister Ghana, if the both of you will be available tomorrow, I'm sure Dr. Mungwa will be delighted to have you. I will place that on his tables. But that notwithstanding, Amazonians, have a beautiful night. And the news is starting right now. Don't go away.
Please, the tab, please turn it off.
Say something first.
Hi. Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. Star Smart, let's begin. In an attempt to raise a standard against the defense mechanism of the Home Front, liberation fighters in Mencham County, the colonial La Republic du Cameroon forces decided to use the Fulanese against the indigenes of Wum. To them, Amazonian liberation fighters in Wum are sons and daughters of the indigenes and none from within the Fulanese. But tonight, you see the plot twist. It's unfortunate how the colonial regimes for more war and bloodshed than a course to end the war in both Cameroons, as though the lives lost are inconsequential, disheartening. While Amazonians will on their end do what they can to protect themselves because this is a war declared against the peace-loving peoples of Amazonia, it comes to them whether they to fight it or not. Well, the interim government continues to empower the defenders of the territory, the Amazonian restoration fighters, to have integrity in defending its people. It is on this note and information reached Undaunted on a final set of draft. On Saturday, there is a federal draft drafting the federal government. While we hope to get full details on that, let's get the prime headlines to usher in the full briefings up tonight.
Prime headlines for today. We'll start with this report. Colonial La Republic du Cameroon police force scares away Amazonians. Also today, we will be looking at the Colonial La Republic du propaganda. As well, amidst the conflict, Christians still have a normal life in Bamenda is a story that we will interest you today. Also, we will look at two wine producers in Bamenda and how they got arrested. And in sports, England beat Senegal to set up a quarterfinals against France. Let's get the full briefings.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution and Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the rest people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amber TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed. With and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news, untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amber TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
In an attempt to raise a standard against the defense of the home front liberation fighters in Menchum County, the Colonial La Republic of Cameroon forces decided to use the Fulanis against the indigents of Wom. Today's talks of failed La Republic du Cameroon, Ambazonia liberation fighters in whom are sons and daughters of the indigents and none from within the Fulanis. Now, to achieve this devilish plan of putting two communities more asunder, Fulanis groups, youths, were given sophisticated weapons by La Republic du Cameroon to protect themselves against indigents with whom they have been living peacefully with. While fellow Ambazonians, against all odds, this is where we will begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Sir Smart is here with us as always. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Onyi, and good evening, fellow Ambazonians. Well, deceiving the Fulanese that since the sons and daughters of the Angam people have taken up arms, they will never attack their own, but only the Fulanese. The Fulanese carried out attacks on the locals while being guided by La République du Cameroon's colonial forces. In such attacks, people are killed, houses are burnt, and shops looted. And since this, La République du Cameroon fashioned serial killers have the blessings of the local colonial authorities, all one will hear is investigations have begun. Investigations that the findings are never known. The cases are closed the moment investigations are opened. Now that the Fulanese are now very comfortable with the guns and other weapons given to them, they now use it on everyone that crosses their path, even the colonial La République du Cameroon military that gave them the weapons in the first place. Now, armed men have assassinated an agent of the colonial La République du Cameroon soldier in Womb. The weapons they fashioned against the people of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia are now the ones used to kill them. What can fight and succeed in a cause like the Ambazonian liberation fight against the people of Ambazonia?
All right, well, this report is quite sad. It says 5 people are confirmed dead in Womb local government area of Menchum County following a fresh clash pushed by the Fulani settlers and the natives from Agam. Now, undaunted gathered, the 2 Fulanese and a colonial La République du Cameroon soldier were found dead in Zongofu village on Tuesday, November 29, 2022, where armed Fulani settlers then took it upon themselves to attack and kill in isolation the native of Agam people. Now, the first victim in the hands of the Fulani is Muasia. Upon his assassination, he was hospitalized in the hospital, as narrated by a local. Muasi left the hospital where he was taken care of by his wife and was killed by angry Fulanis on his way back to the village after attempting to accompany the Cameroon colonial forces to where the dead bodies were seen.
Well, the second victim is a father of 6, David, commonly known as Livingstone, and killed at his farm at Itse Zongofu after is a palm wine town Sugu murdered in his raffia bush. Zum Ungu of Zalataseng village, who can be considered the most fortunate, is in the hospital nursing his wounds after being attacked by a Fulani mob. Well, the Fulani also put houses in flames before leaving, and the Fulani settlers and the natives from Agam have a long history of farmer-grazer conflict, but wasn't bloody until the La République du Cameroon colonies stepped in and sided with the Fulanese. The confrontations lately have been very hostile, with loss of lives and property.
Well, a correspondent for anonymity says the killed La République du Cameroon officer was an intervention mission in a fight between the settlers and the natives. Now, these fresh confrontations have forced many natives of the Wendugu and Mara villages to now seek refuge in Naikam village. Now, this was picked from the Horizon newspaper. And moving on, it was a consular office in the American Embassy in Yaoundé, who is a Catholic, that reported the arrest and detention of the late Cardinal Chimi by amber fighters to the U.S. government that, as of now, has generated the U.S. court action. Now, the buffoon of a lawyer called Nsalai didn't take the case up. Now, all his cases in the U.S. court against Ambazonia have been lost. Now, report has it that he's been paid 200 million francs by the colonial La République du Cameroon government every year for doing absolutely nothing. Now, some members of the genocidal BS government have been blacklisted by the U.S. government for committing crimes against humanity because of the way they go about executing the war against Ambazonia. Now, not least of which is of a U.S. missionary, Charles Wesco, shot by the colonial La République du Cameroon military in Bamenda local government area on October 30th, 2018, which they tried and failed to pin on Ambazonians.
Well, those blacklisted includes Paul Biya, Ferdinand Ngongo, the BIR commander, Brigadier General Amugu, Betty Asumu Joseph, Rene Claude Mecca, Chief of Army Staff, General Valerie Nka, General Ekong Ngwese Divine, and Brigadier General Ntungwe Elias and Boom Bisway Raymond and Tehinda Andre Paul Atanganji, Colonel Bamkwi Emily, Nkondo Titus, Eko Maxime, Paul Tasong, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, Charles Ndongo, Ayabato Lucas, and others. This is published by MBT. Well, Andante takes the liberty to tell the world that the U.S. asserts the right to self-determination enshrined in the UN Charter of Human Rights. The UN independence through fighting of the Brits. Amazonia has the right to fight for their freedom as well and in self-defense. There is nothing La République du Cameroon can do about this.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Now moving on, every dark cloud has a silver lining, as it said. Well, news went viral both on social media and the mainstream media about the arrest and detention of some 3 southern Cameroon's Amazonian activists. The U.S. Justice Department said Claude Chi, 40, of Lee Summit, Missouri, and Francis Chinye, 49, of St. Paul, Minnesota, and La Nesto Langmi, 46, of Buffalo, New York, were arrested Monday on charges of conspiracy to provide material support to support kidnappings and the use of weapons of mass destruction in a country.
Now, the U.S. Justice Department claims that the 3 men who are U.S. citizens of Cameroon origin, of course, Southern Cameroon's right about now, are accused of raising $350,000 US for arms and bomb-making materials for the separatist Ambazonia Restoration Forces operating in the Cameroon's English-speaking Northwest region. Now, the U.S. Justice Department adds that these funds also supports kidnappings by the separatists, including Tumi Ansem Mboglo, a traditional chief in the troubled region. Now, following these allegations from the U.S. Justice Department, the president of the interim of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikometsako, and his entire cabinet have been leaving no stone unturned in the search for justice for the detained and to clear the air about the plight of the suffering people of Ambazonia who have been bruised by La République du Cameroun but not crushed for over 60 years of annexation, subjugation, annihilation of a peace-loving and justice-seeking Amazonian people in a troubled and forceful living together without any union treaty, a people only seeking their fundamental rights.
For 1 week and counting, the steadfast, resilient, results-oriented, focused, and God-fearing leader Dr. Samuel Ikomi-Sako and his interim government have made more than 1 outings through videos and audios on ABC Amber TV and Daunted News to seek for justice and clear the air about the Ambazonian genuine quest for freedom. These outings culminated in a heavily attended live interactive special town hall meeting Saturday, December 3rd, 2022, during which exchanges were direct and frank. The interim government legal team, made up of 3 no-nonsense fire-eating legal luminaries, Barrister Ghana, Barrister Fru John So, and Barrister Mbesea, called on Ambazonians to remain calm as they described the matter as a golden opportunity for Ambazonians to make case plainly to a world that has been adamant ever since the colonial La République du Cameroon dictator Paul Biya, the occupier, declared war on the peace-loving and justice-seeking Ambazonians over 5 years and counting. A war that has killed over 50,000 innocent people, burnt down about 600 villages and homes by a cruel occupier La République du Cameroon military that has also raped and maimed, tortured, looted, and sent more than 1 million into exile as refugees and hundreds of thousands either missing or in jails across Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. Well, they cited a few cases like Ngabor, where over 30 were murdered at night, including pregnant women and children, by the colonial La République du Cameroon military, the Santa Pinyin massacre of over 30 youths, Kwakwa, Muyuka, Bali, Batibo, women raped and killed, old Mami Api roasted by fire, babies shot dead in Muyuka, Boya, Bamenda, and more.
The legal team assured Amazonians that America is a law-abiding country and will help tell the world whether, following these massacres and all atrocities and human rights violations by a colonial La République du Cameroon Creole genocidal regime, Amazonians don't have a right to self-defense. Now, they made it abundantly clear that self-defense is enacted in the U.S. law, and that is exactly what Amazonians are engaged in after they were attacked, and that as the matter unfolds, when they will know the plaintiffs and how much they took as ransom through kidnappings and who took what. Now they will now know exactly how to spit fire in the eyes of La République du Cameroon. Barrister Ghana, who had had the opportunity to meet with the attorney handling the matter, told Ambazonians that the attorney even questioned the FBI that at the time of the arrest, did they know that the and the concerned Amazonians had a right to self-defense, and that the three were not supposed to be arrested and detained without their lawyers. Now, one of them has already been freed, and Barrister Ghana equally disclosed that since the matter is in the U.S. Federal Court of Justice, the department will burn the investigation charges both in the U.S. and up to Cameroon. He encouraged Amazonians to mobilize funds and beef up the legal team for the prosecution of the matter, which will be coming up tentatively in March 2023. As concerns the detained, Barrister Ghana assured Amazonians as well that the case was not going to tarnish their stay in the U.S. and files since their action is according to the law. Self-defense recognized and enacted in the U.S. law as well. Now, they equally encouraged other fellow Amazonians not to fear support in the struggle, as such support falls within the ambit of which covers everybody.
In the same words of Dr. Samuel Ikomisako, Amazonians have been touched at the marrow, and it is high time for the international community that has been complacent about the genocide in Amazonia to learn a lesson whether black blood doesn't matter. Well, he cited the Russian of Ukraine, which is just yesterday, and how the entire world, including the UN, have intervened promptly. He lamented that Amazonians are massacred in their numbers for over 5 years, and the world has been tacitly watching because black blood doesn't matter. Well, Dr. Saka wondered aloud against what he see because in the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Ukrainians did not fold their arms. The Ukrainians took arms and retaliated in self-defense to preserve their territory. Same thing when La République du Cameroon invaded the southern Cameroon's Amazonia. Amazonians who initially marched with peace plans had to take up Dane guns, knives, machetes, rubber guns with rubber shoes in retaliation because they were pushed to the wall. The president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia made it abundantly clear to the entire world that the U.S. a 7-year war to liberate itself from the United Kingdom that was self-defense.
Now, today, the U.S. is helping to supply arms in support of Israel fighting with its neighbors and others, still in line with self-defense. So, Amazonians are not less human to see themselves attacked and massacred, which includes children and old women. Homes are razed, women raped, property looted, and they fold their arms. Now, expatiated Dr. Sako and called on every Amazonian of goodwill to draft the special judiciary draft, now more than ever before, for Amazonians to fight this legal battle, which will be an opportunity to free homeland from over 60 years in servitude, 60 years of enslavement.
Well, he assured Amazonians that this legal battle is God ordained to help bring a world and international community that has been shying away from resolving the Amazonian equation on board willy-nilly and face the bull by the horn. As much will be exposed that will pave our way to freedom early later. Well, as the legal team is expected to be beefed up, some callers during this town hall meeting expressed the desire that the mainstream media at home and abroad, including the Washington Post, be mobilized for a wider coverage as matters unfold. Well, moving on with our stories for tonight, we have an interesting call. It is one in Cameroon. The ongoing war in the northwest region has caused a lot of displacement and economic holdup. The impact of the war in Bamenda can be evaluated economically, culturally, socially, or politically. One of the areas greatly affected is the church. A lot of Christians have left the region, but not all. The remnants are doing well with all church programs still ongoing, unperturbed.
The field convention of the Apostolic Church Cameroon has come up to an end on Sunday, December 4, 2022 in Bamenda. Now, the four-day convention started on the 1st of December and was held at the Cathedral of the Apostolic Church in Tamulong. Now, the crusade was articulated on the theme, Breaking the Forces of Limitation, based on the scripture, Micah chapter 2, 12 to 13. Now, the convention is convened by Field Superintendent Apostle Anthony Obi under the national president of the TACC, represented by the national delegate Apostle John Mbokwang.
Well, during this convention, 13 elders of TACC, the Apostolic Church Cameroon of Field 3, were ordained into the eldership ministry, and the ordained elders are believers that were called and have been serving as elders for 5 years and above. After 5 years, they need to be commissioned in office. That is what happened to the 24 within this convention. This is what an apostle had to explain about it. And one of the articulations of the convention has been prayers for the nation, where the TACC faithfuls called on God to intervene in the affairs of Southern Cameroon and rain his peace into every corner and every heart.
Ministering to end the convention, I'm delegated by the national president, Field Superintendent Apostle Anthony A. Obi held the service, Anointing Service, with the theme, When You Encounter the Limit Breaker. The Sunday service, marking the closure, ended with the anointing of all the faithfuls who answered present for the 2022 Field Convention and anointing the break limitation, according to Apostle Obi.
Well, with a rundown of what the convention was like, I'm sure you see the church is marching on, unperturbed, a perfect definition of a calm in the storm. And we can only hope that La République du Cameroon acts reasonably and in accordance to the laws and rights of Ambazonia to restore this same peace and calm to all parts of the Cameroons.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
La République du Cameroon colonial forces deployed in Ambazonia. They are making life tough for the people of Southern Cameroon, but it is said when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Southern Cameroonians have proven beyond reasonable doubt in countless occasions that they are industrious. 2 persons involved in the production of wine in Bamenda have been nabbed by the colonial La République with the pretext that these wine factories are illegal.
Now, the question is, are they illegal just because they haven't paid taxes to the colonial La République du Cameroon government, or because the wine is not of good quality? Traitors who own 2 locally brewed wine factories have been arrested by elements of the colonial Bamenda Central Prison. Arrested over the non-acquisition of brewing licenses, operating in a dirty environment, lack of quality control, and the use of old and dirty bottles are part of the allegations labeled against the owners of the business. Specialized in the production of red wine, popularly known in Bamenda as 3-in-1 and sold in the local markets, the 2 factories produce the Brand Master fruit wine and the Chateau Royal.
Well, one of the CEOs, 47 years old Andrew, says he decided to indulge in the business to help create jobs for young Amazonians, an assertion quickly dismissed by the Colonial Regional Police authorities, who say he has no legal permit to produce and market the brand Master Fruit wine. While on site, there were old bottles being washed by 11 employees of the company. Inside were ANOR Wine Certification Company seals gallons of the finished products already bottled, a machine to cock the drinks, as well as a host of labels.
The colonial officers of the law, accompanied by the one of the colonial state prosecutors for Mason County, were taken aback as the company also produces the Clifo mineral water, candy soya beans powder, the Clifo yogurt fruit drink, the Bong cereal light of carrots, which Andrew says is a beauty cream. Now, Andrew says he stopped to produce water 5 years ago. Those samples of the bottled water were seen at the factory as well.
Well, located in Madagascar neighborhood in Foncha Street, Bamenda Gwe, the CEO of the company that doesn't have a signpost and no authorization, will have to answer who granted him the rights to production. Well, at the Ndamukong neighborhood, still in Bamenda Gwe, another CEO was arrested alongside 8 workers of his production company for a similar product known as Chateau Real. The elements were greeted with a document from ANOR that permits them to operate.
Their hygienic conditions were found wanting, while samples of a searched whiskey known as Black Power were found on site as well. The company has not been given a license to produce the market whiskey. Shocked at these occurrences in Bamenda, the illegal regional delegate of national security, Colonial Police Commissioner Wilson Elung Njume, asked for investigations to be opened and a report submitted to the legal department without delay. These toxic substances that we consume in Bamenda, they go a long way to destroy the lungs of their consumers. We have hinted that appropriate quarters and measures to curb such practices should be taken.
Well, the CEOs of the 2 companies are currently under investigations, and the authorities have opted to follow due process to ascertain the quality of the wine. The competent health authorities will check the conditions under which the wine is brewed, the quality of the wines, bottles, and other subsidiaries produced by the companies, and the legal framework to operate such a business. But until then, we will be on the lookout to the end of this.
All right, up next, we will conclude our last part of the editorial, which we started last week. Of course, if you've been following the series, you will know that it's been a great one. Well, before we bring you the editorial, let's take this short break.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
In our editorial today, we continue with Deacon Tasang Wilfred's message to Amazonians, focused on exposing the axis of treachery, denunciation of the irregular RC impeachment, and the way forward. The very last part where he talks on money. Dear Amazonians, you all know how money is a thorny issue in this revolution. It is in the knowledge of this that I decided not or accept particular financial attention from the Saka-led interim government. I have 2 of my fellow inmates in prison here who can testify to this. Comrades Eric Ate, the then Director of Cabinet, Barrister Mbesia, can testify to this because I specifically discouraged them from helping me even on a personal basis after I broke away from my Nera brothers, he says. Now I let them know that they were not under any obligation to help. They might have perceived it as arrogance on my part, but I my independence and to give the interim government on with a clear conscience. That said, we have to be careful with the people's money. It is a curse on all who embezzle it. He, Patasang, wants to, at this juncture, call the attention of every Ambazonian to the post he made in the summer of 2017, in which God warned us against a leader who would sell the struggle with the intention of using the proceeds to prosecute the same struggle. Prophecy, Patasang believes, has been fulfilled several times. He also firmly believes that the Nera Hotel meeting was the fulfillment of God's warning. This is the reason why the guns are increasingly getting silent on ground zero. A lot of demonic blood money has reached our men in the trenches. We should be careful once Patasang has spoken the mind of God on this matter, that Elvis Kometa is seen whining, dining, conferencing with individuals opposed to the interim government without preamble and without permission from the president should put us all on the edge. As it stands, Patasang has no reason to doubt the stories according to which the Restoration RC chair met with La République du Cameroon authorities in Cotonou in 2020. Now, a foundation on sand, as stated by the interim constitution, the Restoration Council in Ambazonia quasi-legislature. It is powers to enact laws, and the same interim constitution was voted by the RC and signed by Chairman Kometa. How can the same council turn around to violate it at the first opportunity, as we see in La République du Cameroon, disregarding all procedures for its amendment? Well, how can lawmakers break the law, violate their own house procedures with impunity and stand by it? Is this the foundation we are laying for Ambazonia? How can the Restoration Council maintain at its head consistently shown that he will stop at nothing to ruin the struggle and its leader? The recorded phone call in which Chairman Kometa, the rights the president, tried to wreck his home and the home of the Under Secretary of the Treasury should have an impeachment. That audio that Patasang first received in 2019 from John Mba Akuro, when the latter was trying to get Patasang to turn his back on President Sako, lawmakers cannot be homewreckers. The Ambazonian family should be protected, and those who use their office to disrupt others' families cannot be trusted with leadership, not now, not tomorrow. Recommendations and conclusions from Dikin Tasang, he says, dear Ambazonians, he is not out to vindicate President Sako. He will clear his name and should be given the chance to do that. These opportunities should be given to everyone who has used of one crime or the other. However, considering the local government areas had officially withdrawn their representatives to the RC in order to preempt this act of treachery, the so-called impeachment is consequently of nil effect. This, however, does not negate the proposal that are here below tendered. Precedent has been laid wherein established institutions have been bypassed by the Restoration Council in the Chris Anu matter before the Ethics Commission. Considering also the fact that the RC is now effectively non-existent and the chairman Elvis Kometa and some of the RC have demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that they have personal interest in getting President Sako out of power, the illegality of their desires notwithstanding, it makes sense that the matters at hand be referred to a higher body, the people, the ASSC, scheduled to hold in March 2022. In prelude to this sovereign gathering of the people, Patasang suggests that an ad hoc committee comprising members of the Ethics Commission, President and Vice, the Judicial Council, whose duty it is to interpret laws, President, Vice, and two others, as well as representatives of the Cabinet, the Vice President, and another. Patasang has no reason against having the chair, vice, and secretary general of the defunct RC from being members of the ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee, he suggests, should be chaired by the free sage, Chairman Augustine Ndangam, whose neutrality we all should be able to vouch for. Now, the Ndangam ad hoc committee should receive and process all the petitions, including that of Dikin Tasang, receive, process, examine and verify all evidences, including receipts, which according to the law must be originals, both hard copies and electronics. The Ndangam Committee should be given full authority by the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia to delve into any matter it finds necessary, including but not limited to the conduct or misconduct of Mr. Kometa, his tenure as Arusi chair. The findings of this committee should be presented to a full session of the ASSC schedule for March 2022 if the committee is able to complete its job before the Amazonian people gathered in sovereignty or to a town hall meeting failing this event. In the meantime, he demands, Patasang demands on behalf of Ambazonia that all parties involved in this matter should keep their calm, that all should avail themselves to this way forward and put their egos and ambitions on hold for the interest of the people, the sovereign peoples of Ambazonia. Now, you should not hear from Deacon Tasang for a while, but keep these communications he has sent out and all his previous ones close to your heart. At the first opportunity, Deacon Tasang will reach out to the peoples of Ambazonia when the need arises. Now, this is a message from Deacon Tasang Wilfred, Prison Principal Yawande. And with that, it is a wrap for this instrumental message to Ambazonians from Patasang Wilfred on his expatiation and comprehensive exposing the axis of treachery, denunciation of the irregular RC Restoration Council impeachment, and the way forward. It's been inspirational following through all the high points of this message, but we've come to the end of it and the end of our editorial for today. And if you want more of such truth, kindly visit our website at www.abcambertv.com for more. Subscribe, become a club member, and a part of the winning strategy. Find our payment details on your screen. I am Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amber TV.
All right, thank you, Star Smart, for taking us through that series from Patasang. All right, fellow Ambazonians, that's the end of that series from us here. All right, moving on, esports. All right, of course, England will meet France in the World Cup quarterfinals on Saturday after an impressive demolition of Senegal at Al Bayt Stadium. Meanwhile, Gareth Southgate's side survived another opening. While we have more on sports, just take a listen.
World Sport, football. England beat Senegal to set up a quarterfinals against France. England will meet France in the World Cup quarterfinals on Saturday after an impressive demolition of Senegal at Al Bayt Stadium. Gareth Southgate's side survived a nervy opening in which goalkeeper Jordan Pickford made an outstanding save from Boulaye Dia to run out convincing winners with a powerful display of attacking strength. Jude Bellingham was England's starman, setting up the first goal for Jordan Henderson with a perfect cross after 38 minutes, then having a hand in the second on the stroke of halftime, combining with Phil Foden as captain. Harry Kane powered home his first of the tournament. It left Kane just one behind Wayne Rooney's all-time record of 53 England goals, and he now has the perfect stage here in Qatar to write a fresh page in the history books. Foden was the creator once more as England wrapped the game up in the 57th minute, crossing for Bukayo Saka to show great awareness and touch to flick a delicate finish past Senegal goalkeeper Edouard Mendy. It capped the perfect night for manager Southgate, who opted to restore Saka and keep faith with Foden, leaving out Marcus Rashford despite his 2 goals in the win over Wales. Raheem Sterling was not considered after a break-in at his family home and will now return to England. The following games will be coming up tomorrow in the last round of 16 matches in the World Cup. Morocco will exchange lessons with Spain in the first encounter of the day, while Portugal will battle things out with Switzerland in the last game of the day. American football, NFL Week 3, San Francisco 49ers beat Miami Dolphins while Deshaun Watson went on return from suspension. The San Francisco for their big game against the Miami Dolphins, but lost another starting quarterback for the season after Jimmy Garoppolo broke his foot. Joe Burrow rallied the Cincinnati Bengals to victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in their playoff rematch, while Aaron Rodgers led a Green Bay Packers comeback against the Chicago Bears. Deshaun Watson was booed upon his return, and the Philadelphia Eagles won again to still hold the NFL's best record. One big names went down with injuries, while there was also a rare tied game as the New York Giants and Washington Commanders could not be separated. Two of the hottest teams in the league met in San Francisco, where the 49ers had to lean on rookie Brock Purdy to a 33-17 victory over the Dolphins to join Miami on 8-4 for the season. After losing starter Trey Lance earlier in the season, the 49ers lost their second quarterback of the season as Garoppolo, who led them to the Super Bowl 3 seasons ago, left the game with a broken foot. With one of the best teams in the league and holding genuine Super Bowl chances, San Francisco currently have rookie Purdy as their QB. He has the rather unfortunate label as this season's Mr. Irrelevant, having been chosen with the 262nd and very last pick of the 2022 draft. Purdy stepped up pretty well with 2 touchdown passes, but the Niners' defense was again the star as they bottled up Miami's previously flying offense, sacking Tua Tagovailoa 3 times, intercepting him twice and forcing a fumble. Cricket. West Indies versus England. Nat Seaver scores 90 on return to side as visitors win first ODI. England cruised to a comprehensive 143-run win over West Indies in the first one-day international in Antigua. Having been put into that, Nat Seaver's 90 from 96 balls propelled England to 307. England slips to 127-4 before a partnership of 102 between Seaver and Danny White, who made 68, steered the game back in the tourists' favor. Spinner Charlie Dean then took 435 as West Indies slumped to 165, all out with 9 overs remaining. It was an impressive return to the side for Seaver, who took a break from the game after the Commonwealth Games in August, and a first win for England under their new coach, John Lewis. The West Indies batters struggled to keep up with the run rate throughout the chase, which was halted by star player Hayley Matthews being taken off the pitch with cramp when she was on 8. Kaisia Knight and Rashada Williams led the host to 84-1 before Dean Spell sparked a dramatic collapse, with Marchis returning to bat but only managing to score 34. There was also an injury concern for England as Alice Capsey landed awkwardly on her left shoulder attempting to save a boundary. The 18-year-old left the field by the medical team and did not return for the remaining of the match. The series continues with the second ODI at the same venue on Tuesday.
All right, and with our sports report, we've end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's give you a highlight of our major stories.
Colonial Republic du Cameroon police force scares away Ambazonians, and the Colonial Republic government du Cameroon's government big propaganda. Amidst the conflict, Christians still have a normal life.
Also, we told 2 wine producers in Bamenda has been arrested. All right, and that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on church stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Statsmat and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. Good night and God bless.